exactly what you're hoping for, maybe. It's still expensive, but not nearly as expensive. Essentially, it's going to be like, from what the leak showed, is going to be a 7900 XTX-ish, or GRE, like between the X, so basically a 7900 XT, without cheaper and newer generation, but we'll see how it goes. I still am a big proponent of Crossfire, and I really do think they could bring it back. It absolutely destroys product segmentation, which is good. Why is my green screen fucking up? I don't know. Good morning, guys, and as always with the podcast, we have a cam on. Oh my god, did it just get worse? When I turn my head, it's like it's watching me. It knows. It knows too much. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. I guess we'll get to the doing here, guys. See what's going on. And go from there. Yes. Also messing around with OBS. I got some weird shit going on here, so we might have some technical issues, but we'll see how that goes. Alright. Rare Just Chatting. I used to do a podcast at the start of my stream all the time. And now all the kids do it, by the way. Everyone else does it. But I stopped doing that because I started streaming for only 3 hours, and at that point, basically another hour wasn't dedicated to Just Chatting, was not in the cards. So I wanted to play games. I should bring it back now that I'm streaming longer. However, I also intend on rolling back my sleep schedule and stream schedule, because I am currently streaming at 7 in the morning, and there's legit no one on at 7 in the morning. 7 hours, like 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. is like literally dead hours for people. It's why even the EU streamers avoid this time period, because no one's on. Just everything's dead. Alright. Let's see what we got going on here, guys. No news about UAPs, UFOs. That's pretty slow. The government in general is pretty slow. There's a new one. Telepathy tapes. Telepathy tapes are basically about scientific experiments involving autistic kids. And how they basically... Oh yeah, Eva? That's the first thing you noticed. I have a nice... I guess I don't really... It kind of looks like orange on the webcam, but it's not really orange. And when I adjust my colors, it doesn't turn out right. Yeah, that's the first thing you notice, huh? Well, whatever does it for you. Let's take a look at the 5070 or 9070 XT. We'll probably skip through the 9070. Ready.
Okay, time to review AMD's new Radeon RX 9070 XT.
So once again, this is the mid-range graphics line for AMD this generation. They aren't really going to have a high end, so.
I think I'm going to go sit down for this one. That's better, isn't it? A bit more comfortable. Now, a lot has been said about the 9070 XT. So much so that it kind of feels like we've already reviewed it, but today we've relied on...
Really weird launch where they didn't actually go out of their way to...
Either of which are typically that reliable. So today, finally, we are taking a very in-depth look.
They didn't go out of their way to really leak anything during CES. They just talked about it.
Today's sponsor spot is brought to you by Thermal Grizzly and the new Duranaut with performance you'll want to... But before we jump into the benchmark data, I'll quickly go over what the 9070 series is. There are two models.
There you go.
The standard 9070, which is a binned or cut-down version of the 9070 XT. Both are based on the same 357 square millimeter.
So leaks were going to said that this was going to be basically XT 9700 XT.
Whereas the 9070
Whether or not that holds true is basically what we'll see here.
To 3,584 cores. It's also said to operate the cores at 2070 MHz, so a 14% reduction when compared to the XT version, though the actual core clock speeds will differ under load. As for the memory subsystem, it's identical for both models. So 16GB of 20 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory on a 256-bit wide memory bus, resulting in a bandwidth of 600.
We'll probably also take a look at
now, all this means is
Gamers Nexus as well, which tends basically the two best places for tech tubing is Gamers Nexus and Runbox. Unless you want entertainment, in which case the line is right.
And the memory subsystem is also the same.
Techtainment as opposed to tech benchmarking.
For $500 US or less. So they should be making a decent amount of money on even the cut down 9070 silicon, which has been given an MSRP of $550 US, while the full-blown 9070 XT is set to cost $600 US. The matchup on paper between the older 7900 XT and the 9070 XT is quite interesting. The 9070 XT packs 24% fewer cores. The die size has been reduced.
So it's still a different chip. It's not a cut-down version of the 7000 series.
It's also been reduced, this time by 20%. There's 20% less VRAM, and the memory bandwidth has also been slashed by 20%. Yet, it is meant to deliver similar or better performance, so that's going to be very interesting to see.
Huh?
Now, on hand for testing, I have a number of 9070 XT graphics cards. I will be reviewing the 9070 in tomorrow's video, so the focus for today will be on the 9070 XT.
Came out basically when I was streaming yesterday, but obviously we're going to cover it in the middle of the stream, right?
But along with the Pure, I also have the Nitro Plus, XFX Mercury, Asus TUF Gaming, and ASRock Tai Chi. When placed under load, we saw hotspot GPU temperatures range from as low as 75 degrees with the XFX Mercury to as high as 87 degrees, which quite shockingly was seen with the Nitro Plus. That's particularly odd given
generally for AMD, Sapphire makes the best cards, best coolers, best cards. They're kind of like the EVGA of AMD.
85 degrees. Still, given that this is a hotspot temperature, all models did run very cool. The GDDR6 memory operated at
hotspot temps aren't really a big deal. Hotspots will basically tell you the difference between your temp and your hotspot is generally the like if the heatsink is not applied properly to it, or if you're you have a bad application of GPU paste. And there's no consensus on what too hot is for a hotspot. They just have to be closer to each other.
Both of which kept their VRM comfortably below 70 degrees. Now, when it came to operating volume, the ASRock Tai Chi along with the Sapphire Pure and Nitro Plus were all virtually silent, generating less noise than our case fans. The XFX Mercury was also very quiet and could only just be heard over the case fans, while the Asus TUF Gaming was noticeably audible, but still reasonably quiet. As for core clock speeds, all models were much the same, with no more than a 3% variance out of the box, so there shouldn't be too much performance difference between these various models. So, that's all the AIB cards we have on hand for the moment.
An arm and a leg for it too. Like it used to be like higher end models were overclocked a lot, and they had a much better cooler, and nowadays it's like there's almost no reason to buy
the 9070 XT was good for 88 FPS on average, though that did make it
almost no reason to test basically or buy a higher end model.
Just 6% faster than the 7900 XT. So, not bad, but also not an amazing start. Then at 4K, it slips a little further behind the 5070 Ti.
Still faster than 7900 XT though.
Margin with 51 FPS on average. Moving on to Stalker 2. Again at 1440p, the 9070 XT is coming in slower than the 5070 Ti, this time trailing by a 9% margin, which actually made it 2% slower than the 7900 XT, so that's a disappointing result. Bumping the resolution up to
by the way, this generation, like I said, is going to be mid-range, so if it's in between the 7900 XTX and the 7900 XT, it's basically a winner.
Amazing result, but probably good enough,
especially considering the pricing, which is basically what people are asking for, so I don't want anyone to get pissed off about that.
The 9070 XT is coming in 10% slower than the 5070 Ti, which is quite a significant margin. In fact, here it only managed to match the 7900 GRE. This is a very weak result, and sadly this isn't a game AMD benchmarked for their review guide, so I'm not sure if they're also seeing the same poor performance, or they would if they tested it. It's also quite surprising that they're not actually testing the most popular game on Steam.
I mean, it's a really old game. I'm actually pretty certain at this point, guys, the majority of players in Counter-Strike aren't actually players. They're trading bots at this point. They're arbitrage bots for the skin market. So, for real money trading, yeah. It's not actually players, because all Steam numbers show is basically the number of open clients. It doesn't actually tell you if they're playing or not.
GPU trailed the 5070 Ti by a 16% margin, only roughly matching the RTX 5070. Finally, we have a game in God of War Ragnarok where the 9070 XT is able to match the 5070 Ti, and I wouldn't say it necessarily won at 1440p given it was a mere 1% faster, but seeing RTX 4080 like performance.
So kind of crazy that they test 1440p instead of 1080p.
Really much the same.
I mean, they do. They show benchmarks at the end because basically people are interested in it, like myself. But they replaced 1080p with 1440p.
And RTX 4080 like performance, so that's very good.
1080p is still hands down the
Delta Force performance wasn't great.
Most popular resolution for gamers, just in general, if you look at the Steam survey. Which is true, because almost all modders are 1080p, even though 1440p is gaining.
And 10% slower than the 7900 XT. So I'm not sure what went wrong there to see it deliver 4070 super light performance. The 4K results were a lot better though. Here it matched the 7900 XT, so still not an amazing result in on itself. And that did make it 6% slower than the 5070 Ti. So overall, not a particularly great game for the new Radeon GPU. Now, the 9070 XT was excellent in Space Marine 2, beating even the 7900 XTX. Also, please note that the Blackwell results aren't wrong. For whatever reason, the new GeForce 50 series performs very poorly in this game.
The 5000 series in general has a lot of issues, guys. A lot of fucking issues showing up right now. It's basically a meme at this point.
Faster than the 5070 Ti at 1440p.
We're
And then at 4K it ends up being a massive 36% faster. And again, I really don't know what's wrong here with the GeForce 50 series. I actually ended up throwing all my results out and retesting this entire game for all GPUs due to a recent update where I thought it changed performance, but really the performance for most of the GPUs is much the same. It's just the Blackwell GPUs that appear broken, and Nvidia really does need to address this.
Yep, those are ones you're paying for a lot of money for right now. It's crazy.
The 9070 XT is actually slower than the 7900 XT at 1440p, albeit by just 2 FPS, but perhaps more importantly, that meant it was 12% slower than the 5070 Ti. And that margin does shrink slightly.
So 5070 Ti, I believe, is 750 MSRP?
So, just
check real quick. Or is the 5070 that's 750? They aren't selling for MSRP, by the way. $750, but you can buy them for $900. So, yeah.
53 FPS on average means that the 9070 XT was only slightly faster than the 4070 Ti Super and 7900 XT. The 9070 XT performs well in a Plague Requiem, coming in just behind the 7900 XTX at 1440p, though that did make it 7% slower than the 5070 Ti, but I think overall that is a solid result. Now at 4K, the 9070 XT is 4% slower than the 5070 Ti with 65 FPS on average, so the same level of performance seen from the RTX 4080, and I think that's quite impressive. Now, the Radeon GPUs have always performed well in Cyberpunk 2077, and the 9070 XT thankfully is no exception, rendering 125 FPS at 1440p, allowing it to match the 5070 Ti, and that also made it 11% faster than the 7900 XT.
Kind of crazy how Cyberpunk 2077 is basically like the new Crysis. Will it run Crysis game? Crysis itself obviously being a game that was ahead of its time, and it was intentionally really hard on computers. You weren't supposed to be able to run it on the highest PC, the highest settings, but people seemingly thought that you're supposed to be able to, which is weird.
Only just beating the older 7900 XT, which saw it come in 12% slower than the 5070 Ti. And the 4K data is much the same. Here the 9070 XT was again 12% slower than the 5070 Ti, though it was also 12% faster than the 7900 XT. Call of Duty's always been a positive title for AMD, and Black Ops 6 is no exception. Here the 9070 XT spat out an impressive 118 FPS at 1440p, allowing it to roughly match the 7900 XTX, and this saw it beat the 5070 Ti by an impressive 22% margin. Then at 4K, it led the 5070 Ti by a 19% margin, again delivering 7900 XTX-like performance. So another excellent result here for the new 9070
They keep
XT.
highlighting the
Next up, we
NVIDIA
have
card,
Dragon Age
and it seems like the
Valga, and
NVIDIA
this
card
game
is actually
does
the
use
faster one when
some
it's
ray
not.
tracing with the Ultra preset, but even so, the 9070 XT still performed okay, coming in 4% slower than the 5070 Ti, though really we're only looking at roughly 7900 XT performance in this example.
More no
Now at 4K, the 9070 XT matched the 4070 Ti Super, making it 10% faster than the 7900 XT, but also 10%
Final
slower
boss.
than
I'm the
the
raid boss. What are you
5070
talking about?
Unfortunately, Radeon GPU
final
performed
boss?
quite poorly relative to the GeForce competition in War Thunder when using the default DirectX 11 mode. The 9070 XT was only able to match the 7900 XT, making it a massive 30%.
I'm the main protagonist. What do you mean?
At 1440p. However, when we increase the resolution to 4K, things change quite dramatically, and now the 9070 XT is very impressive, matching the 7900 XTX and 5070 Ti with 227 FPS. The Spider-Man remastered performance is pretty disappointing. At 1440p, the 9070 XT ended up slower than the
Once again, the
7900
9070 XT is supposed to be $600, so.
by an 8% margin.
And the 5070 Ti is 750 retail, and it's 750 retail, and it's selling for 900 right now. So it's pretty crazy. You quit soda. You took 5 days of it, did it. I found a. Well, I mean, obviously all soda's bad for you, but switching off to diet. Actually, I don't know what kind of soda you drink. There's in other parts of the world, like I think it's in Europe, like diet. Is it Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke? I think it's Diet Pepsi is huge. Like I think it's actually bigger than normal sugar sodas. Like people there love fucking Diet Pepsi, but aren't really a fan of sugar sodas. And that being said, sugar sodas in Europe are actually they just taste better. They have less sugar. They have like half the sugar, and it's they're fizzier, so they're like more refreshing, just infinitely better. But I live in Europe, and we're all supposed to be fat over here, so they feed us a shitload of sugar. But yeah. I mean, that's probably caffeine. That's, you probably could drink coffee and you wouldn't have had that happen. But, like, coffee also tends to be, taste better, too. So, well, no, it doesn't taste better. Coffee tends to be cheaper. There we go. It tends to be cheaper. I live in Europe? No, I've been to Europe. I talk about juxtaposition of going between countries often, mainly because it's context, and adds kind of a perspective on things in life, because part of life is just basically understanding that you don't live in a bubble. American. What do you mean? What do you mean? Where is this coming from now? Oh, I see how it is. Oh, maybe I'm Canadian. You don't even know. I'm a Canuck. I watch hockey when off stream.
With 180 FPS. The Hogwarts Legacy performance looks.
But no, I've been to Europe a few
promising,
different
though
times, and I
that
like
is what you
comparing the two because I've been all over Europe and how Europe does things compared to the U.S., and I advise everyone to go between different countries just simply because things are so different. I'm sure there's a similar kind of juxtaposition or culture shock going between like Asia and U.S., for instance, depending on where you go in, where Canada and probably Australia are more of just basically U.S. Countries in Europe, for instance, tend to be very different in terms of how they do things, how people act. And sometimes they're better, sometimes they're worse, and sometimes they're just different. So, yeah.
That despite being 4% faster than the 5070 Ti at 1440p,
Tissue. Use tissue for bodily fluids. Why did you pick particularly that? Please.
That does all change though.
Everyone leaks bodily fluids as part of being a human being.
Managed to outperform not just the 5070 Ti, but also the 7900.
Tissue is just a convenient device for it instead of buying actual tissue. Maybe miss my benchmarks.
The 5070 Ti at 1440p, the 9070 XT is still slower than both the 9700 XT and XTX.
Once again, ideally the 9070 XT should be between the XT and the XTX 7900 XTX, but it's still cheaper than both of them, and so this isn't really even a bad thing.
That does all change though at 4K, and here the 9070 XT managed to outperform not just the.
I mean, that's what they like doing up there. It's hockey, drinking, and fucking. It's basically it's Canada. basically like the
9070
Midwest.
XT was
Well,
5%
was the
slower than
Midwest
the
until like
5070
5 years
Ti in
ago.
The
So,
Last of Us Part 1, rendering 106 FPS
and
on
eating.
average,
Everyone loves eating.
which actually made it a few frames slower than the 7900
Why do I have
XT.
tabs? Because they're
Then at
convenient
4K,
bookmarks.
It was 3% slower than the
And they unload
5070
themselves
Ti,
after they've been
though
open
it
for a
was
while.
at least
I have a bunch of
9%
animes
faster than the
like. I picked out like a bunch of animes over the years, and I just haven't watched them because most of these are just kind of trash. Like things that have been suggested to me, or stuff that that I wanted to watch and I just never did, and just sitting here waiting. A lot of these are kind of like B grade animes too, which aren't even really worth watching. Or bookmarks for tech stuff or Reddits.
7900 XT. Performance in Star Wars Outlaws was decent. Here the 9070 XT was just 5% slower than the 5070 Ti at 1440p, but 13% faster than the 7900 XT. Then at 4K, it basically matched the 5070 Ti and 7900 XTX, which meant it was now 21% faster than the 7900 XT. Finally, we have Starfield, and here the 9070 XT was 7% slower than the 5070 Ti at 1440p, as it only delivered 7900 XT-like performance. The 4K data was more favourable, but even so, it was only able to roughly match the 5070 Ti, while just edging out the likes of Nvidia's RTX 4070 Ti Super. Okay, so across the 18 games that I used for testing, the 9070 XT averaged 119 FPS at 1440p.
So, basically
which
halfway
made it
between the XT and the
6% slower
XTX for the
than
7900.
5070 Ti, and I believe AMD were expecting to see parity there. It's not far off, mind you, but the Radeon GPU was slower overall. Perhaps more troubling though is the fact that AMD claimed the 9070 XT was on average 37% faster than the 7900 GRE for raster performance, but we found just a 20% improvement when looking at mostly raster performance.
1080p
and just
results.
as troubling is the fact that the 9070 XT is just 2% faster than the 7900 XT and 13%
It's still
slower
cheaper
than the
by
7900
a decent chunk.
XTX. Now at 4K, the 9070 XT does
The PC part picker, not Pornhub. Why you guys don't get to see me googling stuff? Let's see. Where is 7900 XT? This is the one that people don't really want. They want the XTX if they do buy them. Really old series. 100 XT. What? Why is it? I don't know why there isn't a category for it. Fix the glitch. I'm not sure why I didn't find it. So these are, I think these went up in price because of, this isn't the price that they sell at, by the way. So their market value is basically way over what they're selling at, probably 3 months ago. I think this is because of, what's the AI initiative from China? DeepSeek, is it? Is that it? Yeah. So as it turns out, the AMD GPUs actually perform really well in DeepSeek. So it just single-handedly like boosted the price by like 30%. This isn't actually MSRP. I believe these were around 800, maybe 3 months ago. Good morning, Kiro. Around 800 like 3 months ago. That's maybe 750. So they're still more expensive than the 9070 XT.
better, coming in just 1% slower than the 5070 Ti and 9% faster than the 7900 XT. Not exactly amazing performance overall, but at $600 it could end up being something pretty special, and we'll look at that in a moment. Now, when it comes to power consumption,
You mean the price-performance ratio is really good?
Exactly amazing. But it's also
Surprise!
hard.
It's not all about the number, guys. As it turns out, it's about the other big number too, the one that really matters to people, which is pricing.
RDNA 3,
Yeah.
little has changed. As we just saw, you're roughly getting 7900 XT performance for roughly 7900 XT power consumption. So we're often looking.
Notice how they didn't actually cover ray tracing yet, because they're putting it into its own section, which is important. Ray tracing is the first thing that people turn off, guys.
So when it comes to ray tracing performance, the 9070 XT is generally much better than RDNA 3.
Yep.
And we see this when comparing with parts such as the 7900 XT.
This is the big win. I'm still sold on the idea, guys. I think ray tracing was a huge waste of time and developmental resources. Basically, NVIDIA invented a niche. They invented a niche, a market for themselves, at which they excelled at, and there's no other, basically, game in the market. They first to market with ray tracing, right, which was the 2000 series. And then basically they ended up essentially 2 years ahead of AMD in terms of ray tracing development. And then they tried to sell everyone on the idea, oh, look at the glint in the soldier's eye when the rocket's, going past the bus and it explodes and you can see it in his eyeball and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you're never going to fucking notice it. In most games, ray tracing doesn't even matter, right? It's the first thing you turn off because it's a huge, huge, huge performance. It grinds against the ground. You basically have three bottlenecks in your computer now. You have your CPU, your GPU, and ray tracing engine or ray tracing performance, right? So you can have a very strong rasterization performance, so your GPU, but it'll still get bottlenecked by ray tracing. That's what you're seeing right here. So in the rasterization, which is normal performance, non-ray tracing, you saw the 7900 XTX outperforming the 5070 Ti drastically, because it was, right? It was drastically outperforming it. But here it flip-flopped because they basically spent almost all their developmental resources on ray tracing. Basically the thing that everyone fucking turns off, they spent more money on. And now is it going to be one of these things where people have it on? Sure. But was it one of the things that people didn't really even care about? Sure. But NVIDIA basically marketed so hard and got so many people to drink the Kool-Aid. They basically invented a religion of ray tracing. They invented the religion of ray tracing and got everyone else on board with it, including their major competitor, instead of NVIDIA trying to compete in rasterization purely and just saying fuck it with ray tracing, which they should have done. They spent an inordinate amount of developmental resources chasing NVIDIA's coattails. And at the end of the day, they still aren't winning. They still aren't winning versus NVIDIA. They're barely catching up here. And at the cost of basically all the other performance that people care about. Rasterization performance that people care about. In every game, it's like the first thing that you turn off is ray tracing, right? If you can. And I've heard some people try to make the case for ray tracing because now I think the ID Tech engine is going to require it, which is a stupid move. And I believe the Indiana Jones and the new Indiana Jones game requires you to have ray tracing, and that's basically it. And in my personal opinion, that's a huge, huge, huge. And it's not just, by the way, it's not just AMD hardware. Consoles have not had ray tracing, and they don't have good ray tracing performance in them for generations. And when you just basically require people to have ray tracing, in the case of Indiana Jones, you lose out on a shitload of sales. It's like taking Party Market and just throwing it out. I don't know who the fuck would do that, but they probably got paid a good chunk of money by NVIDIA to do that. And that's basically what this all comes down to, is NVIDIA invented a niche, they made everyone drink the Kool-Aid, and then AMD's been playing catch-up with them for the last 6 years? When's the 2000 series came out? Yeah, 6 years. 2018, right? They've been spending the last 6 years trying to catch up with AMD, or catch up to NVIDIA. And that was a huge waste of money. They could have spent that on rasterization and literally probably outperformed NVIDIA. This is probably one of the saddest parts of this whole ordeal, is because NVIDIA is sinking a shitload of money into ray tracing technology, right? They could have instead said, fuck it, and just went with rasterization and then completely outperformed NVIDIA and actually have faster and better performance than a 5090 right now. It's one of those things. But instead, they chose to get this little red bar up next to this little green bar and pat themselves on the back. It actually just makes me feel bad because AMD is a big company, right? And if Ryzen didn't come out, we would be absolutely fucked right now, Ryzen processors, because prior to Ryzen coming out after Bulldozer, so Bulldozer came out in 2010, which was basically a stinker. Ryzen didn't come out till 2017, I think. There's this 7-year window, and all Intel did was add 5% performance per generation and slightly improve the efficiency, and that's it. That's all they did every generation. It was horrible. And then AMD came out with Ryzen and doubled the core count, and literally in one generation doubled the core count. And now, like, the high-end Ryzen chips, now putting aside the server parts, are at 16 cores, right? That was unheard of, and Intel wasn't doing P and E cores back then. They're like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Let's do 4 cores, guys. It's great. And just because they didn't care, because they didn't need to. Competition is always important. But the sad thing here is that AMD tried to play NVIDIA's game, and with the 2-year head start, and with giving them a 2-year head start, and they're just barely catching up to it, and they're still being hurt by it. Like, because they've never really, their sales haven't really been strong, even though the last generation with the 7900 XTX was basically 4080 performance or better for $200 cheaper, right? Yeah, so basically you could buy a 4080 at $1,200, or you could get a 7900 XTX at $1,000, and not only is it basically the same performance, it's oftentimes faster than a 4080. And they didn't. And the 4080 Super came out, which was better, and, you know, that made things a lot better, right? But assuming you throw out the ray tracing performance, right? Good morning, Edwin. Assuming you throw out the ray tracing performance, it really didn't, like, it didn't matter. That was it. You know, like, but they just kept going after ray tracing, and NVIDIA was just dragging them around by their, you know, like, their ear. and AMD never was like, guys, what if we just said no and instead did our own thing and then focused on something? Like, they could have focused on physics instead and tried to push physics, right? That NVIDIA's just then bad at. But they didn't. Instead, they just kept chasing after ray tracing this over and over and over and over again, which is where this is. And the eventuality is they spent this entire generation trying to catch up with NVIDIA, at the expense of everything else. I don't know, AMD. I really don't know. I don't know why you did this 6 years of this shit, too, and no one at the company was like, maybe this is a gimmick, and NVIDIA really just wants us to lose. and we are losing because we're basically 2 years behind on technology that we have to play. It wasn't a fair start, right? Yeah. No one at the company was like, hey, 2-year head start. Maybe this isn't going to work out really well for us, and maybe we should, you know, strategize and rethink how our approach to this, right? And they didn't. And, like, would it have mattered? Would I still have recommended people, like, there wouldn't be like, oh, NVIDIA's bad, like AMD's bad at ray tracing. They just wouldn't be competing at ray tracing, right? And would it really matter? I think for most people it wouldn't. That's the thing about it, is if you had a choice of a 5090 card or a 5070 XTX, and one's $2,000 and the other one is $1,000, and this gives you faster performance in rasterization than the 5090, you'd be buying the fucking the 7090 XTX, right? You would 100% be buying that. People would say, well, I don't fucking care about ray tracing that much, right? And why would I do this? But instead, AMD said, no, guys, let's chase the ray tracing dragon, and they did. And they could have taken their sweet time along the way too, as long as they just continually put it ahead rasterization performance. You know, like, it doesn't even matter how long it takes to catch up with ray tracing. You could even add a daughter board or something. I don't know, there's a lot of ways you could do it, where you could actually add another card that just does ray tracing into your system as a companion board for the AMD, and have it made basically by another team or on the side, right? And they didn't. Instead, we have this, and they just kind of, you know, they've been playing catch up, and it's taken way too long. At what cost, guys? Everything.
The 70 XT was 9% slower than the 5070 Ti, but it was also 34% faster than the 7900 XT and 12% faster than the XTX.
Yay, ray tracing!
And in 4K, it trailed the 5070 Ti by a 12%.
Like, do I turn on ray tracing when I have my 4090? For sure, because I have a button that does it, right? Did I buy my 4008 purely for ray tracing? No.
7900 XT. The Allen Wake 2 performance, though, it's not good. But also, it's the first ever Radeon GPU that will allow for over 30 FPS at 1440p with upscaling when using the high ray tracing
everything.
Settings. So I guess that's something. It's also a massive 44% performance uplift when compared to the 7900 XTX, but despite that, it is still 36% slower than the 5070 Ti. Then at 4K,
AMD in terms of graphics compared to NVIDIA has always been behind in terms of market share, and things have only gotten worse while they've tried to doing this. So
now the Cyberpunk 2077 Ultra Ray Tracing performance is quite impressive from the 9070 XT at 1440p using upscaling and managed to render 68 FPS. making it just 8% slower than the 5070 Ti, which is an incredible result for a Radeon GPU. And that meant it was 24% faster than the
They could have done
7900
so much more if they
XT
didn't go after ray tracing.
51% faster than the 7900 XT.
Like,
As expected.
It's hard selling people on something new, guys, especially when you put into context how little it means, like the glint on a soldier's eye that's, behind a bus that's exploding. Comparably to, you get double the frame rate. You get double the frame rate without fake frames. Yeah, that and cheaper price. Just it's not even close. It's not even a contest. Nvidia literally just took them to the cleaners, guys.
Though it did struggle at 4K when using upscaling, but even so, the 9070 XT was 12% slower than the 5070 Ti, and then 29% faster than the 7900 XTX. Despite running into a CPU bottleneck in Spider-Man Remastered...
Yeah, no shit. I mean, that's because that's the whole reason you add context to things, right? That's the whole reason you give them the example of what they're missing out on, and how basically everyone turns it off. It's not like even if... The only people that make you feel bad about it is like your friends bragging about the fact they spent $2,000 on something, because they spent $2,000 on something, right? And that's the only people that are going to make you feel bad about it, but at the end of the day, like, lighting in games is already so good that it really didn't matter that much. Does it look better? For sure. Like, best case scenario is literally Cyberpunk, and Cyberpunk does look really fantastic, especially with all the fucking bells and whistles on. Does it matter that much, though? No, you can turn it off. It still looks really fucking good, and will you miss out on it because you can't see the videos? Also, no. On the other hand, will you notice 80 FPS compared to 500 FPS? For sure. That's not realistic. 80 FPS compared to 160 FPS? For sure. You'll notice the difference in Cyberpunk comparably, especially if it's a cheaper and easier on your wallet, right?
22%.
It's the cult of ray tracing. They were programmed by Nvidia to buy the product.
XT trailing the 5070 Ti by just 7%. Though this also meant...
The reason that I have a 4090, by the way, the reason I have a 4090 this generation instead of a 7900 XTX wasn't particularly because I was like, shit, man, I really, 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 really want a 4090. No, the reason I have it is because my streaming setup is very, very particular, and having a drop-in replacement and a lot less headaches is much more important to me than the cheaper product or the better value. It wasn't worth it because I needed something that actually I could just slot into my computer, and it just did everything that my last card did no matter what. That's what I paid for. And that's not what most people pay for, and that's not the position they're normally in.
A few frames slower than the XTX. Next up we have Dying Light 2, and here the 9070 XT was 14% slower than the 5070 Ti.
Oh my god, the most hilarious thing about this though is AMD didn't even put up a fight like they did, but they fought at Nvidia's game. That's what they did. They didn't put up a fight in their own way, they fought Nvidia's game and they're still losing. People still look at this and go, oh, ray tracing is so much better. They wouldn't even be compared, guys. If AMD did not actually have ray tracing built into their video cards, they wouldn't even be being compared in ray tracing benchmarks, which means they lose by default, but they also don't win. Like, that's a bad way of wording it. Nvidia doesn't just win because they're also not just being compared because there is no comparison in the first place. AMD is still losing here, even though they're looking better now. AMD is still losing here 6 years later, but they're being actively compared against each other at the cost of... Can they still run these games? Yeah, these cards can still all run this game without ray tracing installed, and then you're actively compared against rasterization. AMD, for some strange reason, decided that this was in their best interest to do this, and NVIDIA basically... The saddest thing about this is NVIDIA convinced AMD to do something that was... as a competitor, do something that actually wasn't working out for them. It wasn't going to work out for them. And, you could compare, for instance, the 5070 Ti. If you gave them basically a 2-year head start, right? So you got the 9070 compared to the 4000 series, and it looks better, right? Comparable to last generation stuff, and that's basically the lead that NVIDIA still has over AMD because they had a 2-year head start. And that's pretty remarkable considering NVIDIA makes a shitload more money than AMD graphics does. So,
29% slower than the 5070 Ti. Black Myth Wukong still isn't too kind to the Radeon GPU. The 9070 XT rendered just 30 FPS at 1440p, which is an almost 60% boost from the XTX.
Someone at their company decided they had to do it, and that was a shame. They could have done something else that NVIDIA didn't do, by the way. Like reinvented physics or went back into physics, the way that Agia pushed them in the late 2000s. Physics, by the way, makes a much bigger impact in video games than ray tracing has ever done. And physics is like you see a bouncing ball. You see a bouncy ball in a game, guys. You're like, whoa, physics, right? There's literally games like I like showing off like a Cell Factor when it came out with thousands of rigid bodies. So each one of those is rendered models that will bump into each other and interact with each other. Like it's not even something we have in most modern games. We don't have good physics in modern games because it is incredibly taxing on either your CPU or your GPU because like that's stagnated after 2010. That just isn't went anywhere.
But again, as you can see, you can just ignore this data as none of these GPUs are able to deliver playable performance, or at least what we would call playable performance under these conditions.
Yep.
Okay,
so
here's a look at
this by the way is the game that doesn't run on anything that's non ray traced, by the way, and it's kind of just absolutely silly.
playable performance.
100% sponsored by NVIDIA, by the way.
Okay, so here's a look at the average ray
Do
tracing.
they not have 1080p?
40p when generally using upscaling. And here the 9070 XT was 21% slower than the 5070 Ti.
Why don't they have 1080p benchmarks?
26% faster than the 7900 XTX.
What?
So with RDNA 4,
They don't do 1080p anymore? There's no way.
RT performance.
There's no way. Thousand 1080p has a 52% market share, guys. 1440p has a 30% market share, which is up, but there's still like 1080p monitors are de facto everywhere. Meanwhile, 4K is still abominably small, and the reason you have 4K is particularly because it pushes things super hard, right? And some people do actually have 4K monitors. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
Now, a lot of the 4K data was a bust for the 90.
As I mentioned before, guys, at one point in my life, I actually thought about being a tech tuber, but the money was never there, which is why I never went into it. Then again, money also isn't what I'm in, so I don't know. Yeah, being a streamer wasn't actually a better, possibly not a better outcome than that.
Now it's time for the all-important cost per.
Throwing out 1080p is not on my, wasn't on my list of things that I thought would happen anytime soon.
At least when it comes to NVIDIA's Blackwell GPUs. If the 5070
Metric that really matters, guys.
Available at $750 US, which it currently isn't, the 9070 XT
5070 is bad? Yes, it is.
15% better value, which is reasonable, but in the past we've felt AMD needs to offer 20% better value for a solid review recommendation. Of course, with RDNA 4, we're now getting better ray tracing performance and FSR 4, which we're in the process of analyzing. We're now 70 frame data and 6% faster than the MSRP, so the fake MSRP, which is reasonable, but in the past we've felt AMD, which we're in the process of analyzing, and we'll have a dedicated and
1440p
video for you shortly. So perhaps we're at a point where 15% better value can result in a review recommendation. In fact, I'm pretty confident it can now.
I think this actually,
I'll talk more about
this includes
in a
ray
moment.
trace
Now let's
games?
look at what is considered to be the real MSRP. As it stands, if AMD can deliver the 9070 XT for $600 US, and we've been reliably informed by multiple sources that they can and will, then
Apparently there's, according to rumor, or allegedly speaking, there's retailers are saying they have more stock currently waiting to sell of the 9070 than they've had of the entire 5000 series since it launched. So, yeah.
Things stand right now, the 9070 XT will be delivering 29% better value than the 5070.
Oh, they calculate real
And this is
MSRP.
key because we believe, based on
What is real MSRP?
that AMD needs to deliver 30% greater value.
Not sure about some of the, we don't even really catching like watching every video from Hardware Unboxed, but some of the metrics and decisions not entirely sure of at this point.
Now, if we compare the 9070 XT to the best retail prices from mid-2024,
There you go.
it still looks very good, delivering nearly 20% better value than the discounted 7900 XT, AMD's best value offering in this performance
So it's
range.
16 games including ray tracing. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They threw out some of the games. So it doesn't include ray tracing.
Range. It's also 26% better value than the 4070 Ti Super. So there you have it, the new Radeon RX 9070 XT, and I've got to admit, this is a difficult one to sum up. On one hand, I know there's going to be some people who are quite disappointed with the performance they've seen here, even when keeping the price in mind, and maybe
They always do, because people always want bigger numbers without context because it makes them feel good about their EPing. But their checkbook also really fucking cares at the end of the day, so I don't understand sometimes why people do the things that they do, but they do them anyways, so
that's
yeah.
AMD and their performance claims, which I'll get to soon. But I think overall, what's on offer here in the current market is very good and worthy of recommendation. There's really two main conclusions that you can make here. One being, if the 5070 Ti stays well above MSRP, so typically around $900 US, along with the poor availability, then at $600 US, the 9070 XT is going to be a no-brainer. It's offering almost 30% better value. You would be mad not to buy it. But the other conclusion being, if the 5070 Ti manages to drop down to the MSRP, then the 9070 XT...
That's a lot of work, guys, just to hide a power connector, please.
It becomes 20% cheaper to purchase, and in terms of cost per frame, it's just 15% better value. It's a little over 20% slower on average for ray tracing, and then you have
the ray tracing, guys.
I certainly think saving $150 US by going with the 9070 XT is going to be a good idea for most gamers. But whether or not AMD can convince most gamers of this, well...
They couldn't with the 7900 XT or the XTX because people kept talking about ray tracing performance. Like it fucking mattered. Oh, buddy, look, I get to play this game at 60 FPS with ray tracing on. First thing you do when the stuttering starts and when the game gets sluggish is they go into the menu and they turn off the ray tracing button. It's like the dirty little secret of gamers. And they just go click and it's off. Like, maybe that matters in like VR chat or something where you're... You know, like looking at like high definition boobas or something, right? But in the case of every video game, it's like, no, I need my FPS, right?
Yes, this isn't enough to convert GeForce owners. It's also worth noting that
they drink the Kool-Aid. It's like Apple.
The 9070 XT's performance with the 5070 Ti. In terms of pricing, it's actually much closer to the standard RTX 5070. The thing is, though, the RTX 5070 sucks. It's a poor value option with just
we didn't even watch the review on it.
RAM. So based on that fact alone, I don't recommend it. And therefore, comparing the 9070 XT to a GPU we already don't recommend seems like a waste of time and not really a great win for the new 9070 XT. Also, just another side note, for the Radeon 7000 versus GeForce 40 series, Tim and myself agreed that AMD needed to offer at least 20% better cost per frame value in order for us to recommend.
They were doing that with the 7000 series.
But with the Radeon 9000 versus GeForce 50 series, we feel this does need to be revised downwards, probably to 15%. And this is due to the improved ray tracing performance and the fact that AMD's upscaling technology.
Ray tracing doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the first thing you turn off. At least when ray tracing first came out, there's literally game companies that threw the ray tracing benchmarks in with rasterization, like tech tubers that threw the rasterization benchmarks in with the ray tracing, which doesn't even make sense, like, because it's an option you just turn off. Three bottlenecks, guys: CPU, GPU, ray trace engine, and that's it. And every generation has them. You can have a GPU that's not bottlenecked by by ray tracing, or bottlenecked by ray tracing, and it'll just like it won't be able to perform up to par because ray tracing's on. Right? It's just the way it works. Because it's a specialized part of the GPU that literally performs ray trace tasks, and if it's not good enough or robust enough, you turn it off, right? Because it sucks.
Technology has improved dramatically and should close the gap to DLSS, though we are still busy investigating if that is indeed the case. So it's a little too early to call right now, but what we can say is FSR4 is worlds better than FSR3. So all of this certainly does help the 9070 XT, at least in our eyes, but what gamers at large think could be a different story. And therefore AMD might still need to be targeting a 30% discount again to convert those GeForce owners. But what all this means is, in a world where the 9070 XT...
Imagine where they'd be if they'd never focused on ray tracing ever, guys, and they just made a secondary card for ray tracing.
It's difficult to...
You could even make a case for possibly they could have developed a way to use like a GeForce GPU as a ray trace engine or something along those lines, and just like zombified their cards. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could potentially do.
There's pros and cons to either choice, which is why we felt for AMD to really crush
Not really.
mid-range this generation, the 9070
They need to crush it by not competing in ray tracing.
$550 US. But if supply of the
I don't think it would have been a suicide thing. At the performance numbers right now, people will still turn off ray tracing, guys.
The 9070 XT should win anyway. So in short, we feel if AMD can maintain a 20% margin to the 5070 Ti, as in 20% better cost per frame, then the 9070 XT will be the obvious choice in our opinion.
It is the obvious choice if you don't care about ray tracing.
Just get the Radeon GPU.
Otherwise, if you care about ray tracing, then you still go for a different option.
For a moment, I'm a bit concerned that AMD is managed.
Actually, no. Maybe with the current generation of ray tracing on their 9070, maybe you would actually it's just better. It's going to have worse ray tracing performance, but it's not enough where it matters that much compared to a 7000.
AMD claimed
5070 Ti.
9070 XT was an average 35% faster than the GRE for raster performance at 1440p, but in reality,
we found it to be another reason we have to watch Gamers Nexus now is because there's no longer 1080p benchmarks here. So
AMD claimed a 39% improvement in Dragon Age.
Way it goes, guys.
25%, then 32% in Starfield, but I only saw 20%, and 29% better performance in Stalker, whereas I only saw 16% better performance. So perhaps in the games without built-in benchmarks, AMD is testing in an area with a lighter load. I'm not really sure how the numbers differ so much, but in reality...
Numbers between hardware tech tubers and just tech benchmarkers in general will vary a lot. It's like the story of the century and how different they are, and wars have been waged over them.
Over the GRE would make the 9070 XT as fast as the 7900 XTX and 4080 Super based on our data. And I did see many people claiming that would indeed be the case based on AMD's first-party benchmark results. We believe AMD was set to charge at least $650 US for the 9070 XT, and they were under the impression that that would be a great price. And this would make sense if it really was 35% faster than the GRE and able to match or even beat the 5070 Ti. So like what we saw with the release of the Ryzen 7 9700X, I'm not really sure how AMD is doing their internal testing. Okay, so I'm going to stand for this bit because I'm not really sure how real the $600 US MSRP is. And this is because I've done some digging around, and it sounds like while there will be some stock available at the MSRP, in order to achieve this, AMD is providing retailers a $50 US rebate. This is sort of a temporary thing, or it could be. And this suggests that the price was intended to be at least $650 US. That's ultimately what AMD want for this product. But at least for now, AMD are subsidizing some models so they can hit that $600 US MSRP. But it's going to be, I imagine, in limited numbers. XFX, for example, have told me that the 9070 Mercury, the model we featured in this video, this guy right here, this one won't be selling at the $650 US MSRP. Won't even cost $700. Rather, the actual MSRP from XFX for this one is a whopping $770 US. And on-shelf pricing for the US, because of tariffs and all that fun stuff, it's expected to be $850 US. So that's a bit tragic if true. Now, based on the information I have been able to gather, it does sound as though AMD is starting to play the game. That is, of course, NVIDIA's game. So this means the
NVIDIA's
$600
game was ray
US
tracing.
MSRP might not really be a thing beyond sort of the initial very limited supply of MSRP models. And that leaves everything else well above $600. And restocks of those MSRP models, let's say, are expected to be few and far between. So I think how this is going to ultimately play out will depend on how sales go. AMD does have a lot of 9070 series stock, so if sales are slow after the initial demand, then I'm sure they will keep those rebates going. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out. Anyway, as things stand, no pun intended, RX 9070 XT is a great offering
so funny.
that we expect will sell extremely well at $600. But hitting that price is certainly in question at this point in time. So again, we have to see how that one plays out before, I suppose, ultimately making our decision on how successful this product has been. But yeah, at the $600, if they can do that, it's good. And if they do manage to sell out, so if the pricing's good and AMD sell all of the stock that they have, what that means is they will have sold considerably more 9070 XTs than NVIDIA has 5090s, 5080s, 5070s, and 5070 Ti's combined. So that's pretty crazy. And on that bombshell, I'm going to end this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. We have the 9070.
Not really. I give you a thumbs up, but then you lost the 1080p section, and I don't know what to do anymore.
Have a bit more insight into how things are playing out by the time that video goes live. We also have the join button, Patreon. If you want to become a member, you get access to our exclusive Discord server, monthly live streams, Q&A stuff, and behind the scenes content. So check that out if you're interested, but if not, that's perfectly fine. And I would like to thank you for watching this video. I'm your host, Steve. See you again next time.
AMD used to have bad drivers, but that reputation was from prior. It's called the Catalyst Initiative. They used to have really bad drivers. Then they had the Catalyst Initiative. This is back in like 2005, 7, around there, where they drastically improved their drivers, and they've been much better since then. NVIDIA has problems with the drivers. AMD has problems with the drivers. But in general, like, they aren't really just like horrible or anything. Intel right now has problems with the drivers. However, that's because their video cards, their desktop video cards, are relatively new. But AMD, as far as the drivers go, is pretty much on point with NVIDIA. It's not really, I don't think it's a problem at all. The problems on that are like the rumors and reactions you hear on social media to AMD drivers are from the pre-Catalyst Initiative. It's lasted that long. It's been around for that long. Prior to my 2080, I had NVIDIA or AMD GPUs for a decade and a half, and it wasn't really... I went to a 2080 and it wasn't really that big of a difference besides the performance increase, because I was going from a R9 Fury, I think it was, to 2080. And then since then I've had a 2080 and a 4090. But prior to that I had AMD GPUs almost exclusively. I've had Intel CPUs, and I'm currently in Ryzen. For the last 3 generations I've been in Ryzen. And I wanted to get a 9000 series, but they didn't put X3D cache on both CCDs with the 9950 X3D, because they thought gamers wouldn't need it because no game uses more than 8 cores. And why would I do that? I don't know, guys. You know, fucking dumbasses. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. You pay a premium price for a premium CPU. You want both. You want the product you paid for, and they're or they put games on one CCD, because it's basically 2 chips next to each other. They put games on one CCD and not on the other one. It doesn't always mean it's going to be better performance, because sometimes games will use more than 8 cores, and actually to the point at which, like, it'll start actually being more beneficial having a 16-core processor as opposed to just a single 8-core X3D processor. But there's a handful of games, and basically the ones that I've played is the ones that I can know that it happens, because I've basically looked at it and tested. City Skylines 2 will eat your entire processor. Space Marines 2, Helldivers 2. Rivals uses more than 8 cores, by the way, and obviously I'm forced to use more than 8 cores because of the anti-cheat in it, but it does use it, and it gets more performance out of it. And also, well, I haven't tested this recently, but also Call of Duty Warzone will also do that, but you have to set up you have to go through the INI and set the number of threads to higher than 8. But yeah, either way, segue of topic matter. But as far as drivers go, they're fine. It's not really that big of a deal. Otherwise, it's just overblown on social media. The sun's coming up, guys. It's ruining my green screen. If you haven't noticed that, it's becoming light. It's killing the green. But otherwise, not an issue. We're going to point this out. They obviously did it because it just made things cheaper. Or not cheaper, less time commitment. But 1080p is actually very important. Okay. And unfortunately, last time I looked at News Nation, my video got taken down. I love to look at stuff like this, but we can't. This would be great stuff to cover, but every time we do, it gets taken down. So let's see. We're also going to take a look at Gamers Nexus. What the fuck is Digital Bones? Oh, Stardust. This is, did I show this to you guys, right? Stardust 2? I show you? I'm pretty sure I showed it to you guys. How did I not show this to you guys is a better question, actually. From the actual creator of the original Stardust, which arguably, as Stardust, hands down, just kind of changed animation cinematography in, like, 3D animation. There are so many copycats now, like, trying to grab kind of the visceral atmosphere of a Stardust and apply it to in Warhammer universe and apply it to their films. This is actually pretty incredible. Oh, Stardust was phenomenal, guys. Literally a cultural. The very fact that Warhammer took down the Stardust videos was like I don't know why they ever did that. It was huge. Absolutely. Obviously, the guy, they could have made the guy just give him give the like money or demonetize him or something. Instead, they made him take him down, and they're on the Warhammer website. But they gained so many views and traction from YouTube. It was like one of the biggest. I don't know why they'd ever do that. Like Game Workshop. Game Workshop does some really weird shit. Oh, by the way, a Stardust 2 apparently at some point here. Shit. Do I have a date? Oh, 2026. There you go. It's spring here? Yeah, we had a 50 degree day a week and a half ago in the middle of February. Just 50-degree day. Yep. It's amazing. It's almost like the world's on fire. Don't think too much about it, guys. Don't think too much about it. I think I was going to show it to you guys, and I just never did. Crazy. Let's see. Gamers Nexus. Oh, apparently the 9070s are up. By the way, they just went up. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go wash my coffee cup out, guys, and grab a soda before things get too late here. And then we're going to take a look at a couple more videos here and quickly gloss over them because I want to see comparative points. One second, guys. Ruined. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how the world is literally on fire right now in multiple different ways. Hopefully the aliens save us from it. But it could also be that we are in a tragic timeline in which aliens actually were part of an entertainment venue in which they have a betting pool on us on whether or not we destroy ourselves or go to Mars first or something like that. Very unfortunate timeline. All right. Hopefully it's not that one. Hopefully it's the wildlife preserve slash first. Prime directive. There we go.
No bullshit today. There's some real competition now. The shortest version of this review up front is that the 9070 XT and the 5070 Ti go back and forth.
All right,
a
let's
lot,
go straight to the benchmarks.
Especially Dragon's Dogma 2 at 4K is a remarkably strong showing for the RX 9070 XT, so we'll start here. This is going to go back and forth a bit. In this benchmark, the 9070 XT ran at 70 FPS average, landing at between the 4080 and the 3090 Ti. That means that even taking MSRP at face value,
does no one do?
The $600 9070 XT is achieving 95% of the performance of the $750 RTX 5070 Ti Prime, but at 80% of the MSRP. We want to caution that this result doesn't always happen. The next game it doesn't. Sometimes a 9070 XT is worse than a 5070, so it depends on the game, but this is a great start. The frame time pacing is also comparable, meaning that the frame-to-frame interval is not noticeably different to a human player. The 9070 XT leads the 7900 XT by 14.8% here. The lead over the 5070 is 24% at 70 FPS to 56 FPS. At 1440p, the RX 9070 XT nearly ties the NVIDIA RTX 5070 Ti. The latter of which only leads by
5070 Ti.
It's measurable, but you'd never notice this difference. Just like the 3% of truth was measurable, and NVIDIA's 5070 equals 4090, but you'd never notice that difference.
It's funny because they said that. That was a thing that they said.
Was measurable, and NVIDIA's 5070 equals 4090, but you'd never notice that difference either. The lows are also within variance. The 5070 Ti is basically an RTX 4080 V3 or 4, depending on how you count them. That means the 9070 XT is also punching close to 4080 Super levels. The 4080 Super was a $1,000 MSRP card that replaced a clinically insane $1,200 MSRP card before it, giving us some perspective here. The
7900 XTX was actually $1,000 at launch.
One step higher as well.
I don't know why. Like the weird thing about the 7000 series, I remember talking about it with you guys when it launched, was the fact that all the tech tubers basically ganged up on AMD and said that $200 cheaper for basically faster performance than a 4080 wasn't good enough. And I was like, holy shit. Like obviously the 4090 was expensive and the 4080 was expensive, but it was basically much better value. And everyone just ganged up on them because I don't know why, to be perfectly honest. And obviously even some of them said like the ray tracing results were, like they differentiated them, but like it didn't click in their mind or something. It's very weird.
Still leads the new 9070
as a launch, by the way, not later on.
Here. Against the new 5070, the 9070 XT leads by 21%. The 7900 GRE posts an even larger gap to the 9070 XT. As for owners on cards like the 2070 or 2070 Super here, this might be a good upgrade. At 1080p, the 9070 XT maintained its relative positioning against the 5070 Ti. It's now at 145 FPS average to the 151 result on the $750 MSRP NVIDIA model, available on sale for only $150 more. We've never seen an inverse sale where the price goes up, but as they say,
it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
The 700 XT ran at 134 FPS average in the Dragon's Dogma.
I mean, it does if your cultists buy it. Look at Apple.
XT an uplift of 8%. As for the 700 XTX, it's still technically ahead of the new flagship RDNA 4 card, but only by 8%. Now for Final Fantasy, I want to have a very clear disclosure here. The numbers we're getting are repeatable. They are, however, lower than what AMD is presenting in its public slide deck, and they don't really align with the other non-ray traced performance numbers that we've collected. So we reran everything, we've been looking into it, and we're getting the same results. That's why we're going to present them. However, we do want to be clear that they appear to be outliers, and so we're going to dig into these some more and just see if anything changes. Thus far, we're getting the same results repeatedly. I spoke with Der Bauer, and he saw similar results in one of the games he tested. We'll update you all in a hardware news or the 9070 review or something. We don't think it's our test setup because it is repeating on both of the cards, but it might be something to do with the particular scene that we're benchmarking or something like that. So anyway, we're going to dig into this, but let's present the numbers as they came out for now. At 4K, the 9070 XT landed at 68 FPS average, Unfortunately for AMD, that means that the 9070 XT is worse than the 5070 here. The 5070 leads the 9070 XT by 13.6% with its 78 FPS average. The 5070 Ti leads by a staggering 43% at 97 FPS to 68, whereas Dragon's Dogma 2 was a strong position for AMD. It's weak in this game. It all depends on the game itself. At 1440p, the 9070 XT ended up at only 2 FPS above the 7900 GRE. Architecturally, the improvements just aren't helping here. The 5070 Ti ends up at 187 FPS average, leading the 9070 XT by 34%. The 5070 leads it by 10%. Let's show how much of a tennis match it really is, and go back and forth again. Resident Evil 4 swings it back the other way. At 4K, the 9070
This possibly also means that driver optimizations are in the deck, guys. When you start seeing like weird shit like this, and not consistent numbers, comparably consistent numbers, it usually means, putting aside ray tracing, it usually means that optimizations are going to probably fix this in the same way that they did with Intel. But new generations or new architecture in general sometimes needs optimization passes on it. So driver fixes.
And leads the 5070 by 31%. The 5070 Ti leads the 9070 XT by 3.5%, with the 7900 XTX 23% ahead. At 1440p, the 9070 XT continues to rank alongside NVIDIA. The 9070 XT is about 5 FPS short of the 5070 Ti, making for a measurable but undetectable difference to a human, just like the measurable but undetectable difference between all of NVIDIA's 8,000 4080 cards that it's remade. But all of that is assuming the 5070 Ti has all of its ROPs. If it doesn't, then we'd see anywhere from like a 6 to 12% change in the performance swing. The 4080 Super leads the 9070 XT by 5% here. The 7900 XTX was also once a $1,000 card and itself leads the 9070 XT by 20% with its 232 FPS result.
It's more than $1,000 now, but unrelated.
At 1080p, the 9070 XT clocked higher frame rate than the 7900 XT and landed just below the 5070 Ti. The 5080 leads the 9070 XT by 15%, which isn't all that much when considering we've all been gaslit into thinking a 5080 takes the place of a 1080 Ti or something. It's not the high end, it's like a mid-range card. Since we just alternated to a title where the XT looks better, let's bring it back maybe the other way. Black Myth Wukong tends to favor NVIDIA, both with and without RT enabled. We'll see if that remains true with the new architecture. At 4K, the 5070 Ti leads the 9070 XT by 12% here. It's not as big of a gap as it could.
600 versus 750, although probably bigger gap than that based on current market prices.
Compared to the prior generation, the 9070 XT is about the same as a 4070 Ti Super. The 7900 XTX is a few percentage points higher frame rate than the 9070 XT.
God, if they brought back Crossfire, and fixed problems with it. And fixed problems with it. You could put together two 9070 XTs in Crossfire, and assumingly, if they fix it, get 2 times the performance and beat a 5090 for $1,200.
5080's existence into question more than really anything else here. And again, that's one with all of the ROPs there. The 5070 ran at 70.
Crossfire had issues with scaling, mainly with micro stuttering, but they also never all went out their way to fix it. Because it basically defeats product segmentation. If you have a card that's mid-range or older, like the last generation card on eBay, and you put them together, it absolutely wrecks your product segmentation because you're basically hitting above your pay grade. Because you're putting together two low-end cards or mid-range cards or older used cards, and you get more value out of it. It's one of the reasons they never tried to really make them work, because it's like shooting themselves in the foot. They wouldn't do it, right? But now, you have AMD basically doing mid-range stuff or not being able to compete on the super high-end. Something they should consider. And I've posted a couple different places.
At 1080p, the scaling shifts the 9070 XT closer to the 7900 XTX. The two are functionally equal in all three metrics here. The 5070 Ti...
The 5090, guys. This is a $600 card. And you could get more than a 5090 in terms of performance, which is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous for $1,200.
Outranks the 9070 XT on a technicality.
Just saying, maybe it's not a bad idea.
1080p seems to squish all of these together. Starfield is up now. This one flips it again. At 4K, the
we'll leave a comment on this video. Although YouTube's kind of weird in that basically your comments never get seen unless you get like day one.
You wouldn't notice the 2 FPS. You probably would notice the cost difference though. The 9070 XT actually roughly equals the 4080 Super here and isn't that distant from the 5080. Both the 5070 Ti and the 9070 XT are a threat to the 5080's already questionable existence. At 1440p, the 9070 XT is again between the 5070 Ti and the 4080 Super, roughly tying the latter. The 7900 XTX has a 6% lead over the 9070 XT here. The 5070 non-Ti, which is still not equivalent to an RTX 4090, continues to not be equivalent to an RTX 4090. Wow. Truly wondrous technology. We never could have predicted that. At 1080p, the 9070 XT now holds a 127 FPS average with lows at 68 and 46. That plans it right between the 7900 XTX and the 5070 Ti. There's not much difference between these three in this test. 4080 Super actually isn't that different either, and the 5090 shows that we do have a little bit more CPU headroom here. And actually, so does the 4090 for that matter, which continues to not be a 5070, just in case we hadn't mentioned it. Dying Light 2 is up next. This is one of the heavier games in our test suite. At 4K, the 9070 XT ran at 62 FPS average.
Do you think he snorts a line of cocaine before he makes these videos? I think he does.
11% ahead of the 5070. The 5070 Ti leads the 9070 XT by 12% in this test, which matches its gain in other tests where it held an advantage. In other words, the 9070 XT achieves 89% of the performance at 80% of the listed MSRP. We're reviewing this before the 9070 XTs go on sale, so we can't know how much to adjust for street price. So using the only one there's any control for, that's kind of how it shakes out. At 1440p, the 5070 Ti beats the 9070 XT at 130 FPS to 118, or about a 10%
you know the
uplift
types.
to the 5070 Ti. The 4080 Super is a few frames above that. The 5070 is down at 106 FPS average, resulting in an advantage for the 9070 XT of 11%.
In his case, it's probably not cocaine, though. He's a gamer. So obviously he just drinks like 3 Red Bulls. His heart right now is about ready to explode out of his chest, but it's fine, because caffeine's safe. By the way, guys, these are actually going on sale right now. Like, they launched at 8 a.m., and if you're actually interested in getting one of these, obviously I don't have an affiliate link, but if you're actually interested in getting one of these, they're actually going up right now. So, I don't know if they're selling out, but I have a tracker that's running right now, and they're literally being listed on all the websites.
A doubling in frame rate in some tests. We've been rerunning Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty on a newer version for all tests, so this chart is sparse. The 9070 XT ran at 53 FPS average, giving it a lead over the 5070 Ti's 50 FPS average of 5.8%. Against the 5070, the 9070 XT is ahead by 29%. Maybe more noteworthy is that the 9070 XT is technically ahead of the 4080. The 7900 XTX, meanwhile, remains about 9% higher average frame rate than the 9070 XT. At 1440p, the 9070 XT climbs to a playable 109 FPS average in Phantom Liberty. This is without upscaling or frame generation, just organic farm fresh frames. The 9070 XT ends up basically tied with the 5070 Ti, slightly leading the 4080 and notably leading the 5070. We haven't rerun AMD's older stuff in this one yet. Time for ray tracing. This is where AMD will
Once again, AMD never, ever should have played NVIDIA's game. They lost because they played NVIDIA's game.
Spent a lot of time talking about its improvements to ray tracing blocks and its recent press briefings.
See the glint in someone's eyeball.
Aware of the deficit. We'll start with the worst case scenario. It should get better from here. Blacksmith will
Very important. Thanks, Edwin. Especially when you can't even run it at 60 FPS in the first place. But turn on all that DLSS to make the glint in the eyeball look better. Just keep doing it.
Ray tracing at 4K with upscaling and ray traced, the 9070 XT ran with R settings at 29 FPS average. Playability isn't important to us right now, just the relative scaling. We'll get to the lower resolutions in a minute. With these settings, the 5070 ends up ahead by a large 38%.
No one's going to turn that off.
29.
No one.
The 5070 Ti is 78% ahead of the 9070 XT.
That's a 4K though.
This is absolute worst case scenario. Against last generation, AMD is at least posting large gains. The 9070 XT outperforms the 7900 XTX by 45%, climbing from 20 to 29 FPS. That is a substantial gain, especially considering the XTX was often slightly ahead of the 9070 XT in raster. But obviously, there are situations, especially games like this, where you still will have to just heavily weigh NVIDIA if RT and this type of game matters a lot to you. Against the 7900 XT,
the question is, how much do you want to pay for money that shows you the glint in someone's eyeball, guys? That is the crux of the whole argument. It's a button that costs a lot of money that shows you the glint in someone's eyeball.
There was an enormous 84% uplift in performance. It's undeniable that AMD is improving in RT. At 1440p upscaled,
at the expense. They are improving, but at the expense of having a high They basically, instead of pushing rasterization this generation and just kind of dragging ray tracing along, they just kind of did the same and they pushed up rasterization. They spent an entire generation on rasterization or on ray tracing performance. That's what you're seeing right now. And that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. They tried to do a catch-up generation.
The 9070 XT
People
ran
want a
about
5090. They don't
RTX
want
3090.
glint on someone's eyeball.
70 now is 37% ahead, so about the same as last.
That's
week.
Nvidia's motto.
With the 5070 Ti 6% ahead, reduced from before. The gain in the 9070 XT over the 7900 XTX is 45%, so the same. At 1080p upscaled, the 9070 XT held 73 FPS average and climbed.
This is kind of playable.
90. It's now approaching the 3090 Ti, which came out 3 years ago.
Either
and
still,
has no formal
guys. When Cyberpunk first came out, I played it on stream. I had a 2080. And I could get roughly with DLSS, I could get about 80 FPS, like which would be assumedly playable in Cyberpunk with ray tracing on. It was obnoxious. Like it literally felt jarring trying to play the game with 80 FPS, even though 80 should have been enough. I don't know if it's because I've played so many high refresh rate games at this point where I just like I need it, but it's like a line of something. But it was not fun. It was not fun. I ended up. Not only that, DLSS at the time and still does occasionally have issues, so I could tell the difference between whereas making shit blurry, and that just bugged me a shitload. I ended up turning it off, and the game was phenomenal. And I played through it. Like they still had weird ass bugs, and people faulted Cyberpunk for having weird bugs when it first came out. Stories were great, and then we also played Phantom Liberty with my 4090, which I could turn everything up on at a playable frame rate. But 80 still isn't even enough for fast-paced games. It's not enough. You need 100 at the very least, and that you're looking at results here that are still going to make people with DLSS are going to make people turn it off. They're going to turn it off, and that's what you're paying money for.
It just sold for whatever in that period, kind of like today, I guess. And it was typically close to $2,000, but occasionally $1,500. So that's your context. The 5070 is now 33% ahead, down from 37% before. The 5070 Ti is down to 53% ahead, still huge, but a gradual reduction step by step from the 4K upscaled gains of 78%. Let's look at something more balanced. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a game we'd play with ray tracing enabled.
Still not enough, assuming it's fast-paced.
It's not nearly as heavy an implementation as Cyberpunk or Black Myth.
The only thing here that's actually getting what normally is the 4090 or the 5090. Even not the 4090 is slower. Ray tracing is the biggest gaslight. The biggest gaslight of tech, in general, in gaming tech. It is the biggest. It's like the gaming chair. It's literally ray tracing is a gaming chair, and you'll find out that it fucking sucks. Do I have a gaming chair, guys? No, I don't. I have a comfy ass fucking chair because I sit on it. They literally sell chairs to call centers and to what are they called? 24/7 high intensity chairs. You're meant to sit in it for a prolonged period of time so you don't get blood clots and shit. They actually sell them. They make them. They're expensive. They aren't gaming chairs. Gaming chairs suck. Do you sit in a bucket seat? Are you afraid the chair is gonna the house is gonna shake and flip you out of your seat? Bucket chairs are there to keep you in your seat when you're in a racing car. That's why it's called a DX Racer, because it makes no sense. It just looks cool. It's literally just the same thing. They sold gamers on ray tracing, and if you look at the shit, you turn it off. You literally fucking turn it off. You're like, this is so good, guys. I have 60 FPS. Wow, this is great. No, you turn that shit off.
The 5070 Ti leads the 9070 XT marginally and by 2 FPS or 3.6%. The 7900 XTX is about 5 FPS ahead of the 9070 XT.
They've been doing this for 6 years too, and AMD this generation, I thought originally this was a mid-range thing because they're like, well, let's reduce development costs or something. No, they actually took the generation off from rasterization and did status quo with rasterization and bumped up their ray tracing to be somewhat comparable to NVIDIA now. So, but then they're going to be behind by rasterization. Well, actually, maybe not, because they just did the mid-range, so a high-end offering possibly could be faster. But they don't have anything there, right? So maybe next generation they'll actually have catch-up, and they just threw out the high-end at this point, because they probably weren't going to get it anyways, and their sales probably suck for it. So they're just like, whatever.
Impressively heavy.
I guess.
1440p, the 9070 XT ran out
Where would they be right now if they never touched ray tracing?
Almost exactly.
Crazy.
This is heavier on rasters.
How many people would pay for 30% higher performance than a 5090 in rasterization and half the price of a 5090, so $1,000? I mean, there's a lot of people that would literally just fucking throw money at that shit. That is the crux of it. Let's pretend we're in a timeline in which AMD never went for ray tracing performance, and instead did rasterization. All the time and energy they spent on ray tracing, they instead threw at rasterization, which still and will always matter. They threw it at rasterization, and you are seeing 30% higher performance numbers than a 5009, because NVIDIA is actually spending time and development effort on ray tracing, right? It's not like they just gave up and has no impact on their R&D. They're spending time and energy on ray tracing. So instead of doing that, they just have basically maybe even faster than 30% faster than the 5009 for rasterization, and they could probably produce it at half the cost. Like mind-blowing sort of shit. And if they really wanted to, they could make like a daughter card that kind of functions like Sly that you throw in along with it that just does ray tracing, right? As a secondary card that you buy.
But this is a better result than historically for AMD.
Yeah, well, I wonder how many people would even buy the ray tracing card. That is the kicker, by the way, is how many people would actually buy a ray tracing card if it was a separate card. How many people would buy that if it gave them similar results to NVIDIA? Like you had to buy a dedicated card for it, as opposed to just buying the rasterization card. There's a lot of people that say fuck it, not do it. Personally think that, and AMD unfortunately drank the Kool-Aid with the last 6 years of video cards.
With the 7900 XT about the same as a 4070 Ti Super. 1080p puts the 9070 XT as still right around the 5070 Ti and the 4070 Ti Super.
They're kind of playable frame rates.
Tested at 4K with upscaling, right around the 50.
So here's actual playable frame rates.
70 Ti and the 4070 Ti Super. Dying Light 2 is up next, tested at 4K with upscaling as the game is relatively heavy. The 9070 XT landed at 46 FPS average, which puts it tied with the 7800 XT.
Ray tracing's in capital, guys.
AMD still has a deficit in RT as compared to its NVIDIA competition, with the 5070 Ti leading by 24%. That's not as obscene as the gap in Black Myth,
still not playable,
but it's still an undeniable victory for NVIDIA. The RTX 5070 ran at 44 FPS average here, so the 9070 XT is about 6% ahead. 1440p has the 9070 XT at 89 FPS average and tying the 4070 Ti Super and 3090 Ti. It's marginally ahead of the 7900 XTX, though they're functionally equal. The 5070 Ti leads the 9070 XT by 16% now, down from 24% at the higher resolution. The 4080 Super and FE were tied with each other and aren't distant from the 5070 Ti. At 1080p, the 9070 XT ran at 129 FPS average. The 5070 Ti maintains a lead here, but it's now reduced to 9.4%. Those are some huge reductions in its advantage as the resolution comes down. So NVIDIA is still ahead, but has lost significant ground here. Resident Evil 4 is up now at 4K with ray tracing and upscaling. The 9070 XT performs at parity with the 5070 Ti. This is another of the lighter weight RT titles. So broadly speaking, thus far, games with fewer RT features implemented that lean more heavily on raster allow AMD to compete better. The 9070 XT leads the 5070 by 27%, with the 7900 XTX leading the 9070 XT in this one by 16%. At 1440p upscaled, the 9070 XT ran at 180 FPS average and allowed the 5070 Ti a marginal victory. The 9070 XT improved upon the 7900 XT, but not the XTX. Cyberpunk is up next. We'll start with the heaviest workload and scale down.
So most of their benchmarks are ray tracing?
RT Ultra tends to destroy cards with lower VRAM capacity, like the 5070 with its 0.1% lows. Cards like the 2070 and 2070 Super have been removed this time since they were unplayable and their results were just noise anyway. One could be better than the other just because neither can play the game. The 9070 XT landed at 22 FPS average. In a relative sense, what matters is that the 5070 Ti is playable. 23.5%. The 9070 XT leads the 5070 by 26% in average FPS, but the 5070 has massive stuttering problems due to insufficient VRAM as it depletes. And actually, we showed some video of the screen when we were running this game test in our 5070 review. It gets really bad the longer you play. It can't keep up. Bringing our team down to medium, but still at 4K.
Don't ever turn down those textures, guys. That wouldn't just immediately fix the problem with that. Don't do that.
XT runs at 28 FPS.
Also, by the way, this was a problem. I mentioned this when tech tubers tried to harp on this because tech tubers love just making a topic. Note of Mohill. Putting aside ray tracing, or not ray tracing, too much video memory has been a thing for, too little video memory has been a thing for a long time. Console generation immediately ran into where we had that really long 8-year stint of consoles, the consolization era, at the end of the 2000s. And they made all sorts of tech to try and draw out basically the hardware to make it last as long as humanly possible. And texture streaming is what they came up with. When you're seeing shit like what you just saw right there, that means the texture streaming is not working properly, which texture streaming swaps memory in and out of the VRAM while you're playing the game. And if it's doing that, that means it's not working properly. So it can actually handle bigger textures.
Between the 7900 XTX and the 4080. It's a much better spot.
Just tech that people haven't had, game companies haven't had to use in a long time because it didn't matter. And it does now.
To a playable frame rate with upscaling or by dropping the resolution. You can see NVIDIA getting embarrassed by its own choices once again. The 4070 Ti and 5070 are both crumbling in the 0.1% lows, which is a direct result of the low VRAM.
I mean, money, they're embarrassed about anything.
The low 0.1% value manifests as stuttery frame delivery and an inconsistent frame time pacing. At 1080p, but back to RT Ultra, the 9070 XT ran at 71 FPS average, 61 1% low, and 58 0.1% lows. The 5070 encroaches on this result at 64 FPS average, although the 9070 XT has a slight advantage in 0.1% lows.
Let's see. Just out of curiosity here, guys, did the 9000 or the 9070 XT sell out immediately?
Beats the 9070 XT here by 20%. Finally, for Cyberpunk, tested at 1080p and RT medium, the 9070 XT ran at 92 FPS average. That reduces the 5070 Ti's lead back down to 12% from the 20% we saw with the RT Ultra and same resolution test. We're getting into power efficiency testing now. Efficiency benchmarks are a combination of power consumption and performance.
It probably sold out because they just launched today, but maybe not.
We performed a test with a PMT2 sitting as an interposer between the PC.
Not $600, but you can buy one, guys. Pretty impressive. Oh. $600 are all sold out. You can buy... No, that's sold out too. You can buy one at $720. Oh, no, not $720, $730. This is actually impressive for launch day. But it's AMD, and AMD people don't really get skittish about because it's AMD. And still cheaper and actually available than the 5070 Ti.
PCIe slot and the power cables, capturing just the GPU power consumption in isolation. We'll start with Final Fantasy XIV as usual for this section. However, this won't reflect well in the 9070 XT due to the overall lower performance in this title. The 9070 XT ends up toward the bottom of this chart. Its power draw was 310 watts here, pulling less than the 430 of the 7900 XTX, but also producing a lower frame rate. This drags down the efficiency, planting it between the XTX and the 3090 Ti. The 7900 XT was more efficient in this particular test, with the 5070 likewise significantly improved on the 9070 XT. NVIDIA remains advantaged in efficiency. 1440p has more cards on the chart.
Advantage. Oh my god.
The 6600 XT and the 6700 XT up at 0.45 FPS per watt, but still worse than
Calm down, I already did it.
7900 XT and NVIDIA.
You didn't miss anything.
Lineup. The 5070 Ti is 62% more efficient than the 9070 XT here, up at 0.73 FPS per watt. It's not a good result for AMD. It's burning a lot of power to produce the output it is. Here's a better test for the 9070 XT. An F124 at 4K with ray tracing, the 9070 XT ran at 0.18 FPS per watt. These results round to the second place, so different bar sizes for the same numbers is normal. It just means that the hidden digits are separating them. Anyway, the 9070 XT is more efficient than the 5070.
Why'd they hide the digits
if
it matters?
This massive uplift and flip over the prior raster Final Fantasy charts comes as a combination of improved performance of the power with the large ray tracing uplift.
That's like hiding like less than 10%
NVIDIA's 5070 Ti,
differences.
however, remains more efficient than the 9070 XT at 0.20 FPS per watt, but this is much closer than it was previously, and now only has an 11% uplift. That's more normal.
Efficiency only matters in a mobile application, guys, or data centers. Most people don't care how much like wattage your computer burns when it's playing games, because you play games for like 4 hours and you're done. A lot of people don't even have 4 hours a day to play video games. And then when it's not running, basically it uses nothing, so it doesn't matter. This is a Tech Report used to do this shit during the Intel. During the Intel spit, where they just didn't improve on anything because it was boring as fuck. They started harping on efficiency numbers, and it really didn't fucking matter at all, because gamers aren't going to ever care about this. They plug it into the wall outlet and they pay the bill at the end of the month.
Puts it ahead of the RTX 4060, the Intel B580, and 42% improved on the prior 7900 XT, so that's good. NVIDIA's 5070 Ti maintains an advantage, though, at 266 watts and 0.62 FPS per watt, or a 22% improvement in FPS per watt. That benefit mostly comes from its lower power draw to produce comparable performance. Dragon's Dogma 2 with RT and at 1440p is up now. The 9070 XT consumed 311 watts during the course of this testing and calculated to a 0.33 FPS per watt result, which makes it better than the 7900 XT.
I don't give two shits about efficiency, guys.
Despite AMD's gains overall, NVIDIA for a while. That's not news. The thing that really matters
4K. I guess they're doing cost per frame, but not in a way that's comparable to hardware unboxed, which then makes it actually shittier. Oh, maybe they got a better one here.
if they're winning by enough, and that's why it was so important that AMD get the price right here. NVIDIA currently has about 90% of the discrete GPU market. AMD has the remaining 10, Intel's at about 0, and that's why it's so important for consumers that AMD and one day Intel are able to really compete with NVIDIA. Now,
I mean, they are competing. It's just gamers don't want to buy their shit. As it turns out, the 7000 series also was not helped by tech tubers, which we talked about before, which for some reason really overvalued ray tracing performance, despite being the button you turn off.
At the same time, AMD and Intel shouldn't get pity purchases just because someone should compete with NVIDIA. They still have to earn it. So we'll see how the street prices shake out for the 9070 XT. And again, the 5070 Ti has a problem where even its partners aren't hitting MSRP. So consumers are getting scalped by the likes of MSI. As a quick recap of performance, in rasterization performance and at 4K, AMD's 9070
Oh, they don't have a better
is
price
only
performance.
within the range
What?
of 5 to 6%.
And by the way,
5070 Ti.
price performance chart is not unique to hardware unboxed, by the way. Tech Report did that fucking over a decade ago, 2 decades ago at this point, where they went, what if we actually put the performance comparable to the price that you pay to give you a ratio that would actually help you, a number that would help you figure out whether or not you want to purchase something. That's not new. So them doing it wouldn't actually make them directly comparable to hardware unboxed.
With a few breakouts like Dying Light 2 and Black
Tech
Mountain.
Report was kind of an interesting bird, guys, just in general. And I guess most people here are probably part of the tech sphere and it's a very small niche kind of geeky area. But Tech Report was definitely leading the way for a lot of things. Like frame time that you're seeing here, frame time was not a metric that people reported on. In this case, they aren't really reporting frame times as much as 1% and 0.1%. Prior to Tech Report, everyone didn't do that. They did just FPS, and average FPS tells you jack shit because you can have some games that are really stuttery, and that doesn't show up in average FPS numbers. So, or FPS in general.
The 5070 Ti has about a 12% advantage over the 9070 XT. As we said earlier, our Final Fantasy XIV results just don't match what AMD presented, but we also run the newest version of the benchmark. Across all resolutions and all games that we looked at, performance of the 9070 XT approaches levels of the 7900 XTX in some benchmarks, and is commonly around 7900 XT levels, but often between them. Broadly speaking, the 9070 XT beats the 5070 non-Ti, and these charts show the summary of some of the 4K and 1440p results we have against the 5070 Ti. The non-Ti is obviously below this. These charts illustrate the percent improvement from a 9070 XT to a 5070 Ti, or in other words, if the bar is positive and going to the right, then that's a 5070 Ti victory. If it's going to the left, then that's where the 9070 XT was ahead. As for ray tracing performance, NVIDIA's ahead almost universally in our testing. In Black Myth, it's not even a competition. If you really wanted to play that particular game and you decided you need RT for it with these heavy settings, you'd basically need NVIDIA. In Cyberpunk, AMD narrows the gap from previous generations, but NVIDIA maintains a large advantage. In games like Dragon's Dogma 2 with RT, the 9070 XT looks much more competitive. The extra VRAM is useful in some heavy situations, such as in Cyberpunk RT with ultra settings, where the 5070 starts to struggle under VRAM load. In our efficiency testing, NVIDIA maintains an advantage overall. This is derived from both FPS and power, and in many of these cases, the lower power draw serves as the stronger part of NVIDIA's side of the equation, rather than performance. We think AMD's focus on performance before power is the right move. Power is okay for them. It can obviously be better.
He likes power a lot and noise a lot, and I'm not on board with that. It's a waste. Let's take a look at the 5070, which is the cheaper model as well, real quick here. We're just going to skip through and take a look at the benchmarks.
First up, let's take a look at performance in Marvel Rivals. The 9070 is basically on par with the 5070 at 1440p, rendering at 77 FPS on average.
I think this is just $50 cheaper.
13% slower than the 9070 XT and 7% slower than the
50 or 100? I think it's 50.
Then when
100 makes sense, 50 does not.
4K, the 9070
It also makes sense why,
5070
arguably,
margin,
the
and
9070
just
XT was
41
supposed to be
FPS on
650,
average. Same
as they said in the last video.
RTX
It
3080.
would actually make more sense
And
in
then
this,
just
in this
5%
context.
faster than the 7900 GRE. Next up, we have Stalker 2, and here the 9070 is just 5% slower than the 9070 XT at 1440p, and this allowed it to nudge ahead of the RTX 5070 by a slim 6% margin. However, jumping up to 4K really does hurt the 9070, as here it becomes 18% slower than the XT version, rendering...
Oh, I was going to rant about Crossfire
FPS
after the
average
video,
to
wasn't I?
roughly match the RTX 5070.
I'll have to go back and put a comment up.
Now, as we saw previously, these new RDNA 4 GPUs don't work particularly well in Counter-Strike 2, and other reviewers such as DeBauer have confirmed this. The 9070, it's not particularly impressive at 1440p, and although it was just 6% slower than the XT version, that also did make it 7% slower than the RTX 5070. Now, increasing the resolution to 4K, it didn't really help. The 9070 ends up being 10% slower than the 5070 here, and then 8% slower than the 9070 XT. Now, the Space Marine 2 performance is quite impressive. Here the 9070 was just 5% slower than the XT version, allowing it to match the likes of the RTX 4070 Super, 7900 XT, and very oddly, the RTX 5080. For whatever reason, these new Blackwell GPUs suck in this title, and this is why the 9070 is seen to be 24%
New architecture,
faster
guys.
than the
Both
RTX
AMD and NVIDIA have
5070.
issues on occasion.
Things get even worse for the Blackwell GPUs at 4K. Here the 9070 is 57% faster than the 5070. So something is clearly wrong here, and NVIDIA will have to fix this at the driver level, I imagine. And I should note, in the lighter sections of the game, the Blackwell GPUs seem to perform okay, but in the very demanding Horde battle where we test, they just fall in a heap. The frame rate halves as soon as we kick off the Horde battle. So I'm not sure what's happening there that cripples the Blackwell GPUs, but again, something NVIDIA is going to have to look at and probably fix with an updated driver. Next up, we have Cyberpunk 2077, and this is a title where the Radeon GPUs have always performed well, as long as ray tracing isn't enabled, of course. At 1440p, the 9070 was 10% slower than the XT version, but 15% faster than the RTX 5070, so a very strong win here. Then at 4K, that margin is extended to 20%, making the 9070 comfortably faster than the RTX 5070. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is an AMD favourite, and here we see why. At 1440p, the 9070 is just 8% slower than the 9070 XT, but more crucially, 40% faster than the RTX 5070. I know this sort of result doesn't quite seem possible, but I assure you the data is accurate. Then at 4K, the 9070 trails the XT version by a 10% margin, but despite that manages to lead the 5070 by a whopping 44% margin. The 9070 was just 7% slower than the XT version in Dragon Age the Valguard, and this saw it match the RTX 5070 at 1440p with 79 FPS. Jumping up to 4K, still saw the 5070 and 9070 neck and neck, this time with 53 FPS, making both 7% slower than the 9070 XT. Interestingly, testing Hogwarts Legacy at 1440p saw the 9070 coming in just 2% slower.
Getting about to the end of my contacts, guys.
And that
One of the reasons I don't wear contacts for the computer is my eyes just dry out.
And then at 4K, does slip to an 8% margin relative to the 9070 XT, but also managed to be
4070 a couple of weeks ago. I guess I'll have a few years, I guess.
Now, the last game, we're going to look at the individual results.
Only you asked me, Mustang, for advice. You came to my channel. You would have known about the launch of the 9000 series.
15% slower than the 9070 XT, which saw it match the RTX 50.
You can't get the 5000 series right now. The 5070 Ti would have been something maybe you should have looked into, but I would have recommended waiting for the 9000 series. And the 9000 series actually does look like, assuming you don't care about ray tracing, or actually even if you do care about ray tracing, it's about roughly on par with the 5070 Ti ray tracing performance. It's about on par, because they basically skipped a generation, which is rare for AMD at this point. But I would actually just say it's just a hands down a winner if you're looking for mid-range right now is the 9070 XT. 9070 doesn't look to be that case though, especially if it's only $50 cheaper.
Across the 18 games used for testing, the 9070 was on average 8% slower than the XT version, so the 9070 XT. So not bad at all. That said, it was also just 4% faster than the RTX 5070 for mostly raster-based gaming, so I'm not exactly sure if that'll be enough, but we'll work that out shortly. Then at 4K, it ends up 12% slower than the 9070 XT, which is bad given that it's only...
So he's talking. This is a weird thing here, guys. Wait, did he change it? No, he's talking about this. This is his reference point, right? Or this is what he's talking about. This is 12% slower, but he puts the 12% slower on the 9700 XT. This implies the 97 XT is actually 12% slower than the card he's talking about, which is the 9070. Like, the slower should be right here. This is 12% slower than this card, right? But actually, just based on these little UE things, it actually makes it look like this one's actually slower, even though it's not. He's talking about this one. Yeah, and obviously there's people, by the way, that just want a certain brand of card, and whatever. At this point, I think I used to argue that, and at this point I just realized that some people just want certain things, and just it doesn't matter. If you didn't care, the 97 XT is 100% what you'd want to buy right now for mid-range. But if you do care, then obviously your what you're looking for is going to be more limited.
Not a significant win, given that they both should cost $550 US. Now, when it comes to power consumption, the 9070 consumes anywhere from 15 to 23% less power than the 9070 XT in our testing, so it's certainly a more efficient configuration. When compared to the RTX 5070, consumption can be anywhere from a few extra watts to an additional 20% power draw. A bad example was seen in Starfield, where the 9070 consumed 20% more power than the 5070 for a mere 6% performance boost. Now,
don't worry, guys. When I become a bigger streamer and I have thousands of people watch me, I'll turn on my face cam all the time, so I know why people are here. Until that point, I can sit here with my 20 viewers with my hand cam.
So not a bad result, really. Then at 4K, it did
at that point, I'll be able to afford LASIK, and I won't need to worry about contacts.
Slower than the 5070, so not too bad, and certainly much more competitive than the previous generation. Previously, we saw in the 9070 XT review that these new RDNA 4 GPUs can't quite cut it in Alan Wake 2 using the high RT preset. So obviously the 9070...
No, guys, we talked about this with Cyberpunk. Nothing can cut it at like 60 FPS is not cutting it for any of these fucking GPUs. You pay 5080 is literally $1,000 more. Yeah, it's $1,000. Paying $1,000 and it still can only do like 70 FPS, 67 FPS. It's not enough. That's what she said.
Just 31 FPS on average, and although that made it 21% slower than the RTX 5070, it's worth noting that the performance here also sucked with just 39 FPS. As a result, 4K is out of the question, but because we have the data, I might as well just show it to you for those that are interested. Next,
actually,
Cyberpunk 2077 using the Ultra Ray Tracing preset.
I actually all the time.
Upscaling at 1440p. And here the 9070 is 16% slower than the XT version.
We're not going to watch Hardware Unboxed or, excuse me, Gamer Nexus's video for this. Just kind of curious to get a baseline since I do want to play some games today.
FPS on average, making it 14% slower than the 9070 XT. And this once again, it matched the RTX 5070. Moving on to Spider-Man Remastered, the 1440p results are mostly CPU limited. And as a result, the 9070 is able to match the 9070 XT along with the RTX 5070. Then if we increase the resolution to 4K, this does reduce the CPU bottleneck, and now the 9070 is 7% slower than the XT version, but also 10% faster than the RTX 5070, so a good win here for AMD. Now, it did trail the 5070 and Dying Light 2, at 1440p, coming in 6% slower and then 11% slower than the 9070 XT.
Oh no, the ray tracing button! Guys, if I had a fucking tech channel for the last 6 years, I would literally just constantly harp about how little that ray tracing means. Well, you can do that while being honest about results and in AMD not performing, but also putting into context how, like, you could literally do a back-to-back photo here comparing the lighting between basically ray traced on and ray traced off in the game that you're, like, in the top left there, and show the differences and show how little it actually means to people. And you can, like, literally just laugh about this shit. It doesn't fucking matter.
7900 XT. Then at 4K, it slipped behind the XT model by a 13% margin, and that also meant it was 11% slower than the RTX 5070. Sadly, the new...
I guess the way he does it with the little mark on the right side makes it easier because then you can do multiple comparison points, right? You can if it's just on the 9070, right?
Impressive and Black Myth Wukong with the very
You could if you took more
high
time by
ray
drawing
tracing
lines,
speed
but
enabled.
obviously
And while
limits
the RTX 5070
editing.
is 46 FPS at 1440p with upscaling enabled is hardly impressive, it is a lot better than the 25
60 is almost
FPS the
playable.
9070 spitting out. And that being the case, we hardly need to go over the 4K upscaled data, but here it is anyway for those of you interested. And lastly, we have Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which we believe needs to be played using the full RT settings for a transformative experience.
Yeah.
So in that case,
It's
RT
basically
isn't really using on either the 2070 or
subsidized
5070
tech
title.
demo
For
for
that, you
NVIDIA
want
ray
a
tracing.
5080 or 5070. No doubt make very happy. Now, across the 6 games tested for ray tracing performance, the 9070 came in 13% slower than the 9070 XT,
Ray
and
traced.
16% slower than the RTX 5070. So not bad for a Radeon GPU, and it also means that the 9070 is 9% faster than the 7900 XTX, the previous generation flagship, so that's a great result. The 4K upscale data isn't that relevant, given the 9070 and 5070 were often unable to deliver acceptable performance with ray tracing enabled, but for those interested, the 9070 was 28% slower than the 5070 here. Okay, so time for the cost per frame data, and please note, I've had time to add the Space Marine 2 and Black Ops 6 results, meaning this data is based on an
9070, yeah, it was 550. If it's 500, it'd make more sense, right?
AMD, though I expect at some point NVIDIA will address the issues we're seeing in Space Marine 2.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it would make sense if the 9070 was 650, and if the 9070 XT was 650, and the 9070 was 550, that would make more sense. A $50 difference here doesn't make any sense at all. They 100% artificially at the last moment decreased the price of the 9070 XT, which probably means in order for the 9070 to sell, they have to drop it another $50 too. So they probably only did for the XT and not the non-XT. Like, what would it be at if just did 65 divided by 500? Wrong way. 500 divided by 7.69. So this would actually be cheaper, which is normal for lower-end cards. If this was $500, this would have a cheaper cost per frame than the XT, which is their high-end model, right? So 100%. I would definitely say that they artificially decreased the price of the 9070 XT at the lowest moment, but not the 9070. So in order for this to sell, they have to drop this $50 too. And whether or not this is going to increase by $50, I don't know. But either way, this is not priced properly comparably to these two. Where did the... let's see... 50 divided by 74... 878. So it'd still be cheaper than the 5070 cost per frame. And it would still be a valuable purchase. It'd be the right purchase if you're only looking at rasterization. But it also would not have had as big of an impact as the XT is currently having at 600. So this is at the wrong price point. This one I think was adjusted at the last moment, which I agree with their last video on that. I think that's exactly what happened here. And they're offering rebates right now to the companies selling them. And this was probably where it's supposed to be, but that's still wrong comparably to the XT.
Anyway, this data shows that the 9070 XT is offering...
I mean, if you have, like, people always turn it on, and then when the game becomes unplayable, they turn it off. So, you know, your mileage may vary. It's one of those, when you start noticing how sluggish and terrible it is, you'll turn it off.
Value, though it is still 8% better value.
People want to pretend that it runs perfectly with ray tracing on, and then it turns into a slugfest to turn it off.
Value overall when compared to the very poor RTX 5070.
Or they crank the DLSS and pretend that they have cataracts.
US. Now, when compared to the retail pricing from last year, the 9070 series still slots in quite favorably, offering the best value. But again, the 9070's $550 US MSRP doesn't really make sense relative to the 9070 XT.
Nope.
So you'd probably just get the XT version at those prices.
Yep.
So there you have it. Now, the most obvious conclusion to make here is that if available at the MSRP, you really should just ignore this model, the RX 9070, and instead get the XT version, because it is offering slightly better value in terms of cost per frame. It's about, well, it's $50 more. You're getting, so that's a 9% price hike, but you're getting 14% better performance on average. So that's it really. Everything else is the same VRAM, all that good stuff. So therefore we recommend, again, if the $550 and $600 US MSRPs are honored, or you can get models at that price, then just get the XT. It's going to be better value. Now, of course, we're yet to see how pricing and availability all plays out, so it's difficult to make any solid conclusions about value just yet. But we do know supply of these RX 9070 series GPUs is very strong, but we're also hearing a lot of wiring chatter about availability of MSRP models. So we'll be sure to revisit this subject next week with a big GPU pricing update video, and of course beyond that we will continue to monitor this closely. As it stands right now though, the RX 9070 is very odd, though not unusually so for AMD, I'm afraid to say.
Lower end cards are almost always cheaper and a better value because they're less desirable by the gamers.
Below the 7900 XTX, which was a 10% discount, but it packed 17% less VRAM and was 17% slower to boot. Therefore, it made no sense, and as a result, it was met with
$400 would completely destroy anything would release in the future. That's in Intel's territory, and also destroy their profit margins. Yeah, like everyone. So the comments you guys see about people saying just drop it to make it cheaper. Everyone wants things cheaper, as we've talked about in gaming. With everyone wanting skins to be cheaper, people always want free fucking things. That's the story of life, but marketing and companies will price things at which the market can bear. People don't want that though. They don't want what the market can bear. They want what, would be a great price for them because they want things to be cheap. People always want things cheap. They always want a good deal. No matter what, everyone wants a good deal. I don't think there's anyone that's like, shit, man, I don't want a good deal. So, like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, everyone always wants a good deal. No fucking shit. And then it gets upvotes because obviously people want free things and cheap things. It's just, yeah, no shit. Congratulations. It's not the way the companies work, though.
Despite packing 25% less VRAM and 16% weaker performance. Again, resulting in mostly negative reviews, this time for the 7700 XT. So this is a repeat strategy from AMD. A bold strategy, you could say, but it's one they like to employ, despite no one outside of AMD understanding the game plan. And in fact, it kind of seems like a lot of people...
Video's newer. We're going to drop the crossfire on this one. I'm not even going to watch this video.
You should just buy the 9070 XT instead.
Good value. Good video, Steve. Great video, Steve.
Thanks for watching.
Making this a straight RX 9070 versus...
Because it's only 2 hours old. 1300, comparable to... It's actually almost the same number of comments, despite this being up 2 hours longer.
Frame value for mostly raster performance. But when it comes to heavy or...
Okay, well, that's all I want to watch. So the 5070 is basically kind of meh, but if it's at 500, it would definitely be priced appropriately for purchase if you're looking for a cheaper card, but it's not currently. Remains to be seen where things are going to end up after the market shakes out and whether or not the... things go that way.
I'm your host, Steve.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.
All right, and now we leave the comment. This one we have to pick and choose where we leave our comments strategically, guys. So maybe one of them people will actually see for more than a microsecond because this is YouTube. So let's see. You buy 7090 XTs for almost half the cost of. Done. Let's see if we get a single comment. A single fucking comment. We'll see. People love, by the way, gamers love a couple different things. They love the idea of getting more bang for their buck. They love the idea of old tech that's just been around. They like the idea of having multiple GPUs in their computer. They 100% do. And they also like the idea of sticking it to the big guy if they can. And this hits all the right points. I'm actually very confident that Crossfire and Sly, and they 100%. 100%. Why did it... Oh my god. Apparently that's Unicode for something. %, confident they could fix it. They could make it better. And software is easier and faster to develop than hardware. Hardware you have to look like 2 years out to do anything with. So they 100% could do it. And they haven't. No, Sly and Crossfire was killed off, I think, in 21? I want to say 22? Somewhere around there. It's been killed off by both AMD and NVIDIA. However, if you had an old setup, you could still use it. You just had to manually make profiles. However, from what I understand, with most recent drivers, NVIDIA permanently killed off, like, Slyly. You can't even enable it anymore. You used to be able to enable it, but now you can't. Last generation of NVIDIA hardware that supported Sly. AMD didn't even need to have a dongle, by the way. AMD didn't need, at the later generations, didn't even need to have a bridge or a dongle. They originally did, but that with better PCIe generations, they didn't need that anymore. However, NVIDIA still needed to use a Sly adapter, a little thing that it put on it. And the last generation with that was the 2000 series, and then after that it disappeared. But the golden fingers on them, those disappeared. However, with the bandwidth that PCIe 4.0 and 5.0 provides, especially 5.0, it's like oodles more than your GPU basically needs at this point. So 100% could do it over like just PCIe if they wanted to. 100% could do that. But yeah, no, that just went. There's actually still some posts. I was looking it up the other day, so I was kind of curious. I was looking it up the other day, and there's actually legit people that still try to make it work. And there's a couple posts around the internet. They're scattered. A lot of people think it doesn't even work anymore, but then like Crossfire and Sly didn't actually, like, depending on which mode you used, actually function below everything else. The game just saw one GPU. That's it, and that's all it basically had to work with. And it works with DX12 titles too. It doesn't need to be made for DX12. That's also a misnomer or misunderstanding. But NVIDIA made sure to pull the trigger on that one and kill it off. Because, as it turns out, guys, if you have a 5090 for at least $2,000, and you have two 9070 XTs that are $1,200 that perform rasterization better than this, that's a major problem. That's an absolutely major fucking problem. So, yeah, I don't know. We're probably gonna get a bunch of hate. There's people that like they want it to be dead for some reason. I don't know why, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. This is going to disappear into the nether. That's fine. I want to take a look at the telepathy tapes. I don't think I can watch it with you guys, though, because News Nation takes down my videos, so. However, I wanted to take a look at the 9070, 9070 XT, and we did today, guys. We are going to play some Rivals here for a bit. Actually, what time is it? I started my stream late today, too. I think we'll play Rivals for a bit here. But I'm going to go take out my contacts. I'll be right back, guys. Where'd Mr. Streamer go, guys? He's gone! I need his face! All right. Oh, you know what? It occurred to me. Maybe I shouldn't actually be under just chatting. Just chatting is a catch-all category. I think there's actually an education channel or education category, isn't there?
Stock alert.
Education. That's a category. Yeah, education category on Twitch. Have I tried Overwatch since Perks? No. I don't think, like, I'm not really interested in going back to Overwatch anytime soon. Boobies. ASMR is boobies. Assuming I can avoid it, the thing that really turns me off from Rivals is the possibility of DDA or EOMM in the game, and that's something I've been trying to deal with. Let's see. Not talk shows and podcasts. I used to sit in the category. No one visited that either. 2-Point Museum's too easy. I looked at played the shit out of 2-Point Hospital. This is like no challenge in it. Okay, there is an action education. You'd think there'd just be like an educational directory, right? But if I can avoid it, I played a shitload of Overwatch. Overwatch really kind of missed the mark. That's a stellar example of too little, too late. Yeah, they even did a lot to the game, but they just let the game die for 5 years before they did it because they finally got competition. Orange Z. Sly unfortunately had a lot of issues with stuttering, micro-stuttering when it first started. People started figuring out what it is. They never really fixed issues with it. Let's see. Alright. Let's play some Gamaz here, guys. Let's see. We have some stuff to do off stream today, but I think I'll be fine. Yeah. The more video cards you had, the worse it actually made things. So like 2 was alright, 4 got just kind of bad, and 3 was like horrible. I remember Lyric had 3 because he wanted to be cool or something. He had 3 Titans, and it never worked properly. It was like it like works in like multiples of 2, and he decided he had to get 3. Yeah. Some games it worked better than other games, but it had problems, but they 100% could fix them. They just didn't because it was in counter to their interests. Like, you know, who's gonna fucking basically shoot themselves? Hey, look, we can make these 2 cards better, and not sell our high-end offerings, or we could sell our high-end offerings, right? Yeah. Kind of a no-brainer why they, stopped supporting it. So. And looks super washed out. There you go. Oh, like compensation, my ass. Cool idea. It still could work. They just didn't want to make it work because it doesn't work for them. Yeah. Good. Alrighty, guys. What kind of games are we going to get today? Usually the first game is bad, so if it is, we'll give my computer a restart.
My order is sharp. My mind is sharper. Everything in this place feels so familiar, and it's so strange. Gokigeyo.
Yoki-gay-yo.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
You move with such stealth. You could be an excellent sparring partner.
Currently, I'm more interested in fighting against our common foes.
When this battle is won, grant me the honor of besting you in combat.
You have to let this mom stretch first, but then you're on. The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alrighty.
Pick it up. Help get that vehicle to its destination. Now I see them. I was
I came out this way to, oh my god,
I will get you.
to be nowhere close to our teammates. And then our teammates all decided they had to go out the side door next to me.
And step aside, out of sight. Out of sight. Step aside. Healing magic. Lovely. Out of sight.
Look out.
I'll turn them into splinters.
Out of sight.
Killed her. Alright. Now we're just in shit. Alright.
Anyone willing to help? Please, can you come?
I know who did their ult first.
Rise, my friends!
Huh? There we go. Oh, that was mine. Revenge kill.
Hitting harder
Bar.
than ever. What is this enchanted totem? Sayonara.
Peter Quill, unstoppable force.
God, bro.
Assistance. Almost there.
Good job.
Turn back now. Please, can you come back?
That's not where I want to go. Oh, one more.
Anyone willing to help?
My hunt continues.
Need to strengthen my field. Disappear!
Alright, bye.
I'll turn them into splinters.
Now I see.
Well,
Help is here.
should have just waited for my invisible.
The moon haunts you.
A strange mystical object. What a difference. The moon totem has been destroyed.
Thank you.
Step aside.
Now that was awesome.
Oh my god.
A little help, please. This will do nicely.
Against the world! Shields up!
How are you not dead? I hit her. I even heard the sound of hitting her.
Disappear!
Even made the sound of hitting her, guys, with my shift.
My hunt continues.
See.
Rise, my friends.
That's better.
Second chance is over.
Disappear! You're mine!
Get it out.
Friends, gather around! Double KO! That's 3!
No! My BM is gone!
Almost there! Don't turn back now! Shake it up!
This time I need you.
Sayonara.
I need assistance.
That's better.
Vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum. Anyone willing to help? Moonlight left me off.
The moon haunts you.
Oh.
Focus on the battle. Hello, little friend. We're here to help.
What is this enchanted totem? Sayonara.
Us against the world! Shields up!
Step aside.
No. Been through him still.
I have reawakened.
Focus on the battle.
My blade seems sharper.
Oh, shooting through that guy.
Got your back.
This tiny little out of sight. You're mine. What a disgrace. This will do nicely.
Don't let anything stand in your way.
Your day ends, demon.
No! My fucking kid! You put you. Bruh! All they do is steal!
Step aside. Hitting harder than ever.
Oh,
Out of sight.
pretty close.
I have destroyed that troublesome orc.
This is your big chance. Disappear!
Alt value right there.
Farewell. You're mine.
Double KO!
My work is done.
Where'd the Punisher go? Dead. All dead. Billions dead. Trillions dead. That's me! Basically started this out with being unable to hit anything. And then we killed everything, and they're all dead. Accuracy's pretty poor. It was at the beginning of the match, too. Every day. Every day I should start out my stream with a restart, and I don't. Next game. If you guys are curious about the 9070s, guys, they are on sale right now, too. And we saw some in stock, but they aren't at 600.
You'll need a tough
Morning, Angry.
team to win
Hope
this
you're
one.
not angry this morning.
My
Oh!
mind is sharper.
Yeah, I don't like. It's not even Overwatch. It's not even that like I hate Overwatch. It's just been out for so long, and there aren't that many characters in Overwatch I actually really enjoyed. Where in this game, I play a shitload of Psylocke, where I didn't really even play Genji at all in Overwatch, who is, I guess, the most comparable character to her. There's a lot of characters in this game that are actually fun and characters that I enjoy. Where in Overwatch, they went through this period I've talked about before. In Overwatch, they went through this period after basically Doomfist was released, DPS Doomfist back in the day, in which esports players freaked out about anything that wasn't just a fucking hit scan player. And then they just started adding more just garbage, just generic hit scans to the game. Like just boring hit scan characters because they didn't want anything that's actually like mechanical. They want anything that has mechanical skill that actually, you know, might not just be shooting a pixel, because that's what they wanted in esports. And it was really fucking stupid. Where you can look at other MOBAs having very different characters, like League of Legends, or even in the case of Blizzard, Heroes of the Storm, having very, very different characters. And they make things a lot more fun and interesting, but the fucking, like, Adderall addicts just literally just want to shoot a pixel on the screen, and they don't want to lose to anything other than shooting a pixel on the screen. And that's it, and that's boring. Well, here's my escape.
Sayonara. Step aside. I need time to heal. Our foe is here. Sayonara. That's better.
I line of sight of my healers. Yeah. I mean, there's been generations where Intel's been better and generations where AMD was better. Prior to, like, the Ryzen series, AMD was decent. In the Phenom series, that was a long time ago.
Out of sight.
Wait, did you come back? Oh, it's a tank.
Get that vehicle to its destination.
Your powers are mine!
But
Disappear!
oh my god. Ah. Not the actual Invisible Woman. Oh! That is more than a normal melee. That's the wand, the sword. You don't even realize he has it out. I think it looks the same, almost identical to his normal melee, and it shouldn't. But it does.
This yokai is unlike any I have. You're mine.
Isn't where we want to be. No, mine. Mine. Thought we had more time. And missile.
Just another sucker with suckers.
Mine, love. You're mine. Sayonara.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
I didn't even know that could come down. There's definitely continually changing the maps, guys.
The chipboard. You got the momentum.
Lovely. Farewell. Strange little monsters.
Oh, we aren't gonna make that. Oh, almost. My E just came up too. A lot of focus now, guys.
Step aside.
Loyal squids.
Sayonara.
That's it. Don't let any
Why do I have the ping symbol on my screen?
Together to victory!
Can't get through down here.
Don't mind me. I'm just dying. Namor called his backup.
Coordinated pushes.
Expressions. That's better. An enemy has arrived. You're mine.
Here you go.
Hey, Teeny! Enjoy the bring on that chaos.
Sayonara.
watch. So close. This is a big chance.
Fortunately, got hit by Magneto.
My hunt continues. Step aside.
Get that vehicle moving again.
Their attacks.
And unfortunate.
Fantastic! Ha ha! Ha ha!
Fortunately, all your teammates are dead. Yep, now we're just getting hard commed. Let's see.
My friends are here.
Waited too long for that?
Will do nicely.
Heads up, invaders from the deep.
Step aside. What a difference.
Uh-huh. Dead. They're all dead, guys. Things get more complicated when you start getting hard commed. You can literally hear them calling you out on voice comms. That's not me. Action's pretty much spot on. Definitely taking focus whenever we showed up, though. Normalish, not spot on, normalish. Nice run. Give it one more and then we'll give my computer a restart here. Doo-ba-doo-doo. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo. Doo. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo. Uh-huh.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Oh my god. Off we go.
My mind is sharper. Enemies can become friends, but only if we show our foes respect.
He obviously hasn't seen Twitch. Ah, good shit.
I sense great sadness in you.
Morning, Sebas.
The collector took me from my world, with no way to return.
From what I've actually experienced, even though getting 300 FPS, this game's really weird. You can get legit over 200 FPS, and the game feels like shit. So, it's not really, like, FPS is, I don't want to say it's a number at this point, but it actually just kind of turns into a number. I've struggled with issues with hit registration, sluggish aim, and, like, I can be getting, like, 500 FPS. It doesn't really even fucking do anything. Oh, we want to... Maybe we'll play some Torch here. Since we don't have much time to play games anyways today. Maybe we'll play some Torch. Yeah, where the fuck are my shots going? No, she comboed. Shooting through her. Oh my god, there's Jeff with the fat ass, guys. He's spitting. He's squirting, excuse me. Oh, that didn't work.
This will do nicely.
Make it. Now that we have a ping symbol. Is it my internet connection today? Not dropping frames on Twitch. Oh, it's maybe it's only when I'm dead. Back again. Need health back.
Thank you, sister.
Got a shield.
Farewell.
gone.
Item, step aside. And so your story ends. Out of sight.
He's dead. Oh. I guess he thinks he was alone. Oh no.
Sayonara.
Did he not see the tank next to him? Christ.
Sayonara.
Through him.
I have stepped
Ah, it's a shooting through targets this game, guys.
out of sight.
Fast! Race!
Healing magic. Lucky.
Shooting through him still.
Exposed.
Sort of surprised they didn't actually try to see where I was. No one chased me.
Out of sight.
God. You are? Fuck. Died.
You're mine.
Oh my god, hit Reg! Fucking RNG lucky. What the fuck is this guy doing? Someone completely oblivious, don't worry about it.
Out of sight. This will do nicely.
But he wants to push me off the edge.
Down to 30 seconds.
Never miss!
Might be dead here in a second.
Lovely.
Jeff doesn't take the right amount of damage either. Let's see. Lots of these guys we have hit registration issues on, guys.
This is real fire!
Very weird, which is probably why they're doing so well, and it's probably pre-made too. It's one of the very few games where if you play at higher ping, it literally stops people from doing damage to you. Most games, when you play at higher latency, and you'd be able to correlate this, by the way, if it actually showed you latency, but it doesn't. Most games, when you play at higher latency, becomes a significant disadvantage, but in this one, it doesn't matter for some reason. Still pooped on them. Our team did absolutely nothing, and we actually did better than the enemy team. Cool. Next game. Also, having some issues there. Ready.
The right hero could make all the difference.
My odachi is sharp. My mind is sharper. It appears some timelines feature
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay
different
strong.
version of me.
You reading my mind?
I don't have to read your mind to know what you're thinking.
What am I thinking?
Ha, you're so sensitive.
Wait, what did she think he's thinking about? Huh? Explain to me.
The battle
No leg
starts
symbol.
in
There must be a problem with the Oregon server today.
3, 2, 1. You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
Soldier. All this stuff with celestial beings is way above my rank.
I've located a hidden assailant. Farewell.
Better stop that vehicle.
Oh, she stunned me. Ugh. A headshot. Widowmakers, you have to keep it basically an exact range.
Sayonara.
Alright, I guess we aren't going to get the rest of our HP.
Healing magic. Lovely.
You sure those are bad guys?
You're mine.
Guess she used her sleep already. Thank you.
You betrayed my trust, Mantis. There is a price for that. This will be nice.
Take cover. We got a sniper.
Also shot through the atom.
I have step aside.
Take that, you undersea uglies!
They've made it halfway. Stop them.
How long do these walls last for?
Friends, gather around. We are undefeatable. Fight alone.
Farewell. Rest well, my dear Golden. I require help.
I know, I hit it on accident.
Step aside. You're mine.
You stop them in their tracks.
Sayonara. I've located a hidden assailant.
Oh. And we still got hit by it even though I dashed away. By the Widowmaker stun.
Every little bit helps.
Been close enough for her to do it. Desync. There's a lot of this game that makes me feel as the game is like going at 20 tick instead of like 60. Then again, this game's also a lot faster than Overwatch, so maybe this game needs to be 120.
You lose, dear.
Alright, I don't know what he's doing.
I have destroyed that troublesome arc.
Oh.
Healing magic. A long distance attack. Watch out.
And you tried to BM, and you got fucked because of it.
Sayonara.
There's still a chance to stop them.
You get a weapon. You get a weapon.
Sayonara.
Oh, I was thinking here. I had an E or my Q up. If I could get out of there, I could have actually queued.
We are undefeatable!
Ah!
Your day ends, humans. Sayonara.
Careful, Nunk.
Double KO! Down to 30 seconds.
Got 99 problems, but a sniper ain't one.
We must hold out a little longer.
All right.
Something better, Groot.
Out of sight.
The final 10 seconds! You stopped them in their tracks!
No longer in control.
Got her. See where the other guy left. Uh-huh. Didn't really do anything super amazing.
Pick your hero. Or villain. I'm not
Feel as though we just played this map, guys. It's not actually hard to make a player rotation or a map rotation, so you don't actually play the same map over and over and over again.
I fought Oni, slayed demons. This should be easy.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
People are scared of you? You're nothing compared to what I've seen in Limbo.
Oh, really? Papa were to clean jar sometime and then run your mouth.
Will you be my tour guide?
Unlikely. We are symbiote non-grata.
The battle starts in
Magic
5,
likes the 19 inches, guys. Just saying.
2,
I sense some flirting.
mission area. Got it?
Here I thought the Second World War was a nightmare.
Hostiles coming in fast!
Huh.
What a difference.
Where am I? No robot may be a problem. You got hurt. Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
No, I don't have a ship. My C was up.
We are in this
I could have very easily seed.
Farewell. Step aside.
incoming.
That's better. Farewell. What a journey. Out of sight.
Double KO. Control lost.
We're about a second away from death.
Step aside.
Fucking gun. Okay, bro. Why do they go for people legitimately on medkits when there's people on the point dying? Like, yeah, alright, you got me. I was about to heal myself. Got me good.
Farewell.
Oh, she didn't pop that soon enough. I actually don't want to do this. Alright. You trying to fucking kill me with your ult? Wait, did you just run out of your ult? There's no way. There's no way she just did that. What the fuck is that? She really wanted to kill me. Alright, bro. If you want to do that. Oh, buddy. The fucking cloak and dagger literally trying to chase me down in her ult, and then she left her ult after. Like, she didn't sit at the end of it. She left her ult to try and kill me.
Demons, yokai, and villains. They all fall by
Fuck your brazier.
just the same.
Get it. Get the brazier, guys. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Physics in video games, guys. Marvelous.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Crazy. What a crazy world we live in. Look how accurate they are, too. Just like real life. Remember we were talking earlier about AMD and what they could have pursued instead of ray tracing? Like physics? Yeah. They chased NVIDIA's lunch.
4, 3,
Seemed like it was so good, they had to do it.
all you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
We are warriors, no matter what worlds we come from. Do not lose sight of that.
Lots of ways I could have got out that. I didn't think you'd shoot me on the back pedal.
The mission area is yours to capture now.
Target neutralized.
The mission area is yours.
That's how it's
Out of sight.
Really?
You made a grave mistake.
It's a Jeff! It's a Jeff!
That's what I needed.
Jeffs are, assuming you have hit reg, guys, Jeffs are just giant pinatas. The one earlier we didn't have any hit reg on. Which is great armor.
Do not yield this location.
Double KO. You captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
Step aside.
And stay down.
Sayonara.
Again!
Booyah. Okay, I don't know what the fuck's going on there.
Get in there.
Defend what is ours. Farewell.
How many shift up?
Quantum magic.
Step aside.
Seized.
Bring on the chaos.
Limbo stands with you! Watch me us against the world! We'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Farewell.
Step aside.
Ancient One, I hope my success is proud.
Your demons chose their queen wisely.
Alright. And a Psylocke at some point. Yeah, I guess.
Another epic victory! Big
Kind of weird games, guys. And most of these games were actually like another. We've had another DPS that's basically on par with us. I'm very curious. PP. ABs too. Let's see. We could play some Torch and be bad at him. Where I play a character, guys, I'm not good at. We just literally have people that just try to dick on me all match. I have no idea why. It's like they smell it. They're like animals and they smell blood in the water and they just can't help themselves.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
I'm the brightest in the sky.
Let's see if they have slightly improved his E since we last played him like 2 days ago, 3 days ago. They hotfixed his E and improved it so it goes through line of sight better, but it still has issues.
Play with fire, you're gonna get burned. Yo! Hey, thanks.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
Hey there!
I have been fighting to protect my people since before you were born, boy.
Good for you, old man. But age doesn't always mean wisdom.
Ah, the fire of youth. Charming, but dangerous. You would be wise to follow my
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They're ahead of us!
Why didn't that connect at all? I think it hit the spawn walls and disconnected?
We need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
There you go. A lot of problems with the right click getting it to connect.
Someone has us in their sights.
What am I? Invisible?
Let's cook some more!
I see.
Time to do some fire damage!
Oh my god.
Back from the ashes!
I do have an F to cut altitude, don't I?
Stop them! Better stop that vehicle!
I'm clocking some bad guys!
I can't move fast enough. Just watching me through the wall right now? Or I might be cheating.
Shooting from a distance.
Good.
Let's light this candle!
Tremble before fast.
Christ. I'm not on Psylocke, literally nothing's dying. We don't have a front line. This is the problem with SPMM, guys, is when you have SPMM and the game takes into account the fact that you're going to do well, and you get on a character that you don't actually play,
It's all messed up.
you just get shit on.
It brings together every
Better
dimension.
stop that vehicle!
Even some I've never seen. Nicely done, Master Weaver.
Look up behind
Off, bro. No one gives a shit that you're playing a character.
This.
Enemy ahead of us.
Yo, sneaky, sneaky.
An experience with playing Iron Man, only this is worse. We legit have people that just run up and try to shoot me? Are you fucking for real? Is this stream snipers now?
Man, my hair's all messed up.
Against the world!
For mutant kind!
Don't step on lava.
I've become vulnerable.
You could consistently get that to,
Any kind-hearted friend to heal me? Ooh, that felt nice. Let's cook some more.
Spider-Man's trying to do TikTok memes. Like, the range on this thing's insane, but it has so many issues with fucking line of sight.
Never miss.
Fuck did my damage go on this guy? Like, when I hit him with my F, it didn't do any damage. I literally hit him with the F. Where'd the F damage go, guys? What?
Mutant kind will be better off.
Christ. Next game. I have a team that has a front line in any way, shape, or form, guys, except for me, and I'm not playing Psylocke, so we'll just go into the next one. My team literally is just lollygagging around and just taking pot shots at people. Because no one's applying pressure. On to the next. Done that earlier after point 1 was capped, but I thought we could actually play it out a little bit and it would have been like kind of alleviate itself and it never happened. Whenever I believe in a match, guys, it just gets worse. Like, it always just gets worse. I should have called it a point 1. I basically set up a rule for, assuming I'm not playing something I can carry on, I set up a rule for basically getting steamrolled, which is if we have like basically no limbs at point 1 cap, we just leave. Same thing with first point. On the cap maps. Works pretty good, because that generally is unrecoverable. As it turns out, you're just screwed. Sometimes it's not the case, but almost always it is.
Hurry up. I got a date in another dimension.
Not playing Torch because I want to go against tryhards. And I barely can play the character.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Hey there. Ready to rock, sis?
You know me, Johnny. When I'm needed, I'm there.
Old, reliable.
Don't make me hurt you. Feel the pull. The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2.
There's only 2 doors here.
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Saved the world since I was a teenager.
Can't go over the top of this guy for some reason. But I just somehow glitched over the top edge. Okay.
Let's cook some more. Ooh, that felt nice. Oh my god, they got big.
I like the cold. Johnny, no!
Got your back. Strike at me if you dare.
Man, My hair's all messed up.
That one hurts.
Yummy!
What am I? Invisible?
Armed and dangerous! Again! Again!
Luck with that, bro.
Dodge this!
Yeah, front one didn't connect for some reason. I have no idea why.
Day at the spa. Mark your priceless artifact. Send the bill to Benjamin J. Grimm. Let's cook some more.
I am ready to put on a show!
Storm Sips unite!
The grand finale!
Supernova!
The moon haunts you!
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Oh my god. We're fucked here in a second. Live.
Let's cook some more! Rock on, Ben! Sue for the win!
Excuse me.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
Enemy in front of us.
Oh, you're all
Any kind-hearted friend to heal me?
Here. Oh, we almost bit it. I had a C up too.
look up behind you. I'm a sitting duck.
Can't get rid of me that easy. Just ask Ben.
I've got you covered. Shields
This
up!
has Moon Knight written all over it in hieroglyphics.
Mind the
Don't
exploding
step on
plasma!
lava!
Doing major damage.
Here is an enemy to pursue.
Halfway there. Keep
Like no damage. I swear it does more damage to me. I don't know if I'm hitting the wrong spot or what's going on here.
Heads up. Central Park has never been friendly territory.
Don't step on lava!
Destruction here. Nothing here.
That's gonna be next to impossible for me to grab.
Ooh, that felt nice.
Keep trying to reload.
Don't step on lava!
Let's see. He definitely still needs help. So basically his gimmick is literally just coming up and just insta-tapping you in the brain with his left click, and that's pretty much it.
This candle.
It's like a shittier version of, because his E doesn't work properly. A lot of downsides to it.
Can't snuff me out!
Sorry about your thigh, Mooney.
Target neutralized.
The moon haunts you.
I am ready to put on a show!
They're ahead of us. Like a day at the spa. Storm Sips unite!
Definitely has a problem. I think it's like one of the only saving graces is literally just having a C. So you don't have that, you literally don't get heals at all. Because people don't look at you.
Tastes like chicken.
Invisible?
Don't step on lava!
Get that vehicle moving again!
Whenever you do a direct shot with your right click, you basically get punished. At the you get punished because you can't actually use the fire. You can't connect it.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Too far down. It's like it only can go down a meter to connect, and if you don't do that, you like legit don't connect it to it.
They look like they mean business. Stage.
I think Grandma Ted lost one of his toys.
Armed and dangerous! Again!
I don't think we're winning this one, guys. Just throwing that out there, because I'm not playing Psylocke, and the game thinks I'm a lot better than I am on Torch.
Mind the exploding plasma.
I unleash
But
the Vishanti.
Only 60 seconds left.
only one of those actually hit the ground.
I am ready.
That one didn't connect to either of the two ones over there in front.
Magic Ankh. No more Ankh.
Storm Sips unite.
You need me.
Cool character, but not functional. There's more people playing Creature, but Creature, I guess kind of from like a simplicity standpoint, he kind of works, but he generally doesn't have a niche. You can just play Hulk and do better. Where Torch is just kind of broken. He still's broken. Hey look guys, we lost. Darn. That was completely unexpected, because I wasn't playing Psylocke, or a character that's actually good. Alright, next game. Damage-wise, didn't even do super bad, but we didn't get any killing blows with it. We even had a front line, too. We had tanks. Do we want to play more Torch? I don't even know. Hell, they fixed his E, he's just kind of shitty. He's just like a... Like with Iron Man, you can go up and evaporate people with right clicks and kind of do something with your left clicks. With Torch, you kind of can just shoot people in their brains, maybe if no one's watching. Lucky.
Pick your hero or villain.
He has too many problems connecting his E's together. As I mentioned a couple different times, his E, if you right click and it hits someone, it should drop to the ground. A fire pile should drop to the ground. If it hits a wall, it should drop to the ground. If it hits a barrier or like a shield, it should drop to the ground, so you can actually connect stuff even when it's fucked up. Otherwise, it just completely ruins your rotation that you're trying to go for. Extremely difficult to connect anything. It has lots of problems with height difference too, where it only goes up and down 3 meters, or a meter, and that's not enough. It needs to do like 3. There's a lot of vertical height differences in the maps, and you can't connect shit at all because of it. The box itself doesn't actually have a height to it. You can actually, well, it does have a height, but you can jump over the top of it. Just wants to get about a meter.
Oh my! OMG, you are the cutest shark ever! Look at those little feet. I know sharks aren't supposed to have feet. And you can't meet Vito. She's my best friend. The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Light and dark need each other to exist.
Day at the spa.
Act. It's basically about the distance that you can do. Get a vacuum cleaner. You have a flyer too? And a Helena, which basically just instantly destroys your face. One of the reasons we stopped playing Iron Man was because of aimbodying and cheating Helena Hawkeyes in rank, that is. A lot of problems. It's very difficult to get back and forth between forms. By the way, this is the first, I think this is the first torch today that we've seen on an enemy team. Weird, as I'm playing torch myself. Now he has to come over and try and jack off on me. Huh, interesting.
Back from the ashes. Don't step on lava. Day of the fall.
Capture progress has passed the halfway point.
I think we normally dodge this, but I'm going to get a 5-minute cooldown. This is another loss, and I'm pretty sure there's a stream snipers too on top of it, which is why we got an entire team of flyers fucking around with me. Hey, look, bro, I can play a flyer too, just like you! Oh my god, I'm so much better! And I'm like literally sitting here and fucking pug. And you got people just trying to jerk off on you. I mean, just unreal. Came around the back to try and kill me. No. Do we want to quit out of this, guys? Next game. Let's play Worms for 5 minutes, and then we'll play another. It's a stream snipe squad, and not interested in playing against that. Literally have like 6 games on that guy, guys, and they want to have some sort of fucking comp jerk-off squad. Hey, look, guys, we can kill the streamer! We can all group up and play the character he is playing and show him how much better we are than he is! We'll show him, mister! He's so bad! Get out of here. One of the upsides of playing comp is legit that you don't have to run into that shit, so... You still run into it, but it's not as bad because you have teammates that are on par with you. No, Canada! Oh my god. Okay, I'm dead. Oh yeah? Oh yeah, little bro? Fuck you. Dead. In-game.
Stop alert.
Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo. 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 Fuck you. Oh, okay. Bob. Fuck Bob. Fuck this guy. Fuck you, Bob. Yeah? Whew. This game is incredibly sensitive to latency, by the way. Oh. Debate? Normally it's a debate. Oh, no. Normally they aren't nice enough just to pull over for you and let you eat them, but you know, sometimes.
Long have I wished to serve under you, sir.
Oh my god! Sanjo, thank you for the continued support, bro. I appreciate it. And executed. Look at the guy. Oh my god. Oh my god. 41.
When in doubt, throw more men at it.
Closing in on 48. Oh my god.
Long have I wished to serve under you, sir. A night
Is it 50? No. Oh, is that a resub?
When in doubt, throw more men at it.
Frostal! Oh my god! Gifted a sub. Thank you, Sanjo. I appreciate it. Long-term support and giving lurkers subs. Beautiful. Frostal, I'm sure, thanks you from the whole bottom of his heart. And get some reciprocity going so he feels as though he... Fuck you, Jess. Fuck you! Now we're both starving. Totally feels the need to give a sub to someone else, right? Got him. Yeah, you want to go? You want to go? Okay. That guy go. Come back here. Want to go? Want to fight? Want to fight? Huh? Huh? We going? Yeah? No, he's just waiting to zoom. Let's see. Mine? Dead. Also dead. I don't know, I didn't pick that up just now. No! Okay. Think we're good. Might be shy by a minute, maybe? So I remember this being the same way in fucking Overwatch. You just get the skulkers just like lurking around, just waiting for you to play shitty characters so they can try and dick on you. And then SPMM dicks on you anyways. This game has flyers in it, guys. We're literally going Psylocke and killing all of them. Like, legitimately, in the last 2 days, that was probably the most flyers I've ever seen. Absolutely fucking crazy. Fuck's just trying to flank to kill me. What the fuck's going on here? Get out of here. No one believes that shit. No one can see your name anyways, guys. No one cares. Reasons I hide names is because people actually just get off on seeing their name on your screen. I've learned over the decades, it's like the dopamine and serotonin literally comes from their name popping up, but if their name doesn't pop up, no one, like, there's no accolades, no one cares. That's why the names are hidden. Alright, do another, guys.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
I'm the brightest in the sky.
That guy, why would you select... Oh my god, another sub! You found KSA, there's no way. Is he actually in chat? Are you digging through my chat and just finding people right now? Actually, can you give subs to people that aren't in the chat? Torch any good? No. He's kind of cheesy in that you can, like, snap... basically the best part of his character right now is his left click. But that's not supposed to be the best part of his character. So basically people just try to run around and just put all the... Basically, it's a buckshot. Just put it all into someone's brain.
I remember you from a long time ago.
Oh my god, you're right. I'm gonna get old someday. And then I'm going to... Oh man.
Piano gets the chicks.
Chill out. The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Did almost no damage.
I'm blocking some bad guys. Like a day at the spa.
Remember we talking about height differences being a big deal?
A little help, please.
Let's cook some more.
Christ. Stutter.
Nice.
Let's cook some more.
Didn't fucking do anything. Oh my god. That ball just interrupted my F. I wasn't even allowed to hit the ground. It pulled me out of my F. There's no way.
Coming through. Let's light this candle.
Ah.
You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks. Better stop that vehicle.
I had to see up. But no, like, the biggest part of his kit that's supposed to work is his right clicks. And his right clicks, without his E, don't function properly. They don't go up and down properly. Line of sight used to be a big issue with them. That's been toned down. But now they have problems with height differences, and people can legitimately just jump over the fire pool that you make.
Shields up.
Like, just hit spacebar and they don't take damage from the ticks. But alright. What?
Can't snuff me out.
Better stop that vehicle. A nice deep-braided halfway.
Like this, I can't actually properly make a fire pool here. That's like the highest you can go up before it doesn't connect anymore.
No hard feelings, big bro.
It's the grand finale.
Don't step on lava.
That should be cool if, like, the amount of time that people spend burning actually reduces the cooldown on his E.
A nice
Another fucking flyer. Why the fuck would you go Iron Man? Am I, like, doing that well on this guy? There's no way. I mean, they do have a Hulk. Didn't connect the one up the stairs.
look out behind you.
Together to victory!
No one else looks at you in the air, too. Yeah, there's a lot of characters that literally just never had a spotlight until they popped out in this game, like Squirrel Girl too. Yeah, which is all right because it gives them a lot of creative freedom. It didn't connect to one of the stairs. Yeah.
Still burning bright, baby.
Sure about that one. He's a lot of help. Mr. Fantastic still needs help too. He's shit. The only time he does well is when no one pays attention to him, which is basically any character can do well if that's the case.
Mind the exploding plasma.
My shields are down.
Alright.
Double KO.
Still burning bright, baby.
Better stop that vehicle.
Let's cook some more.
Got him good. Look at that. Oh my god. There's no way they'll ever be able to touch the ground anymore, guys. It's a shame because I really like area control, area denial characters. We can't make like anything on the stairs. You just trying to give me value? Hulk's like, oh my god, you never do anything with it. I'm gonna go stand in it. What a nice guy. By the battle pass, I haven't bought anything for this game except currency for name changes. Because people that stream snipe are fucking annoying. And the game doesn't have a proper streamer mode. It has one for comp now, but it turns off partway into comp, which is just ludicrous. It doesn't even make sense. Wants to fucking... Okay, I thought he was gonna ult. Like, he does a lot of damage if you can actually get people in it, but you can't fucking get people in it. I mean, not even a lot of damage, he just does damage. It's like probably one of the best ones we've done so far. That one just despawned. Oh yeah? Oh yeah, Jeff? Dude, I was way up in the air. The fuck is that? Oh, we're dead just from damage. Oh, not dead yet. Oh, it didn't fucking make that one on the side. connect? It did connect that one.
You stopped them in their tracks.
Let's cook some more.
Perfect. Heck. Down to 30 seconds.
Nope. Nope.
Storm Sips unite. That's why we follow Cat. Sweet. Come at it.
Where the fuck did my C go? It just like turned off into heal me at all.
The final 10 seconds.
Like I said, the best part of his kit is literally his left click right now, and it shouldn't be. It should be his right clicks and his E, and it's not. There we go. Oh yeah, huge triangle.
Together to victory. Don't step on lava. Can't step me out. Ooh, that felt nice.
No.
Any kind-hearted friend to heal me?
Oh my god, I killed something, guys! Wow! Normally I do buy the battle pass, but not in this case. I'm still up in the air on whether or not this game sometimes has DDA in it, where it feels like you literally just have damage reduction applied to your character, and it's the most obnoxious thing in the world. I love having cap when I'm thinging out. I see. We did stuff this game, guys! When we don't have 3 flyers and 2 DPS on the ground following me around and trying to flank me and kill me instantly, we do better, as it turns out. It's fucking weird, isn't it? Crazy. Almost like you could assuredly figure out that those 3 people and the 2 people on the ground, especially one that's flanking trying to kill me, might actually be there just purely to kill the streamer. There's no way, right? There's absolutely no way. Do we even call them stream snipers anymore, or just playing kill the streamer game? I don't fucking know, guys. I'm not even a big streamer. That's the crazy thing about that. You get stream snipers at every part of Twitch. Weapons. Alright. We're gonna call things, guys. I really hope they fix Torch in the future. I do want to play him. I have a soft spot for area control, area denial characters. He is currently not in a workable state. It's mainly his left clicks is basically what makes him the best part of his character, and it shouldn't be. It's like, that's it. It's just his left clicks, and maybe if you're lucky you make a E that works, but if you spend time doing it as opposed to just left clicking, you're wasting time. It's just basically left clicks, moseying around, and then using your C, and then Q when it pops up, and other than that, you don't even bother with your right clicks at all, because they don't do shit. Because it's broken. Which is a shame, because that's basically, I'd say the majority of his character and identity comes from his right clicks, his E, and basically making area control, area denial space. But that's not working properly right now. We're going to call things, though, guys. Tonight will be more of Rivals. Probably continuing with tweaking things. Today was a shorter stream, mainly due to the fact that it got on late, and then we had to cover the 9070 XT launch, which, by the way, if you're looking for a mid-range card, highly recommend 9070 XT. It is definitely a breadwinner right now, comparably to NVIDIA's offerings, which comparably is probably the closest thing is the 5070 Ti. And that's not only is it much more expensive, it's basically out of stock, if you can even find it. Actually went on sale earlier today at 8. But I'm out here for this morning, guys. If you are new to streaming, enjoy the bullshit, enjoy the fun, make sure the follow button on your select platform is stream to Kick, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Trovo, as well as TikTok. Every day, from late night to early morning, GMT-6, so late night North America time. You stream for about 45 hours, give or take. Depends what's going on in my life, what's happening, etc., etc. Sanjo actually hit 4 years today. I thought it said 42. It actually says 48. Oh my god. 4-year anniversary for Sanjo and donating some subs. I appreciate it, bro, as always. Much appreciated. Long-term support going on there. But we're going to call things, guys, for this morning. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Thursday morning. Have a good day, guys.